Up on a rooftop, Rakuto just watches the other students hanging out down below. He's totally checked out, ready to rage quit this joke of a life. His mind flashes back to his absolute garbage guardian just screaming right in his face. The guy is yelling loudly, claiming our boy slacked off on his chores again. The floor is still a totally trashed mess. Rakuto glares back and this dude immediately snaps, demanding to know why he is giving him attitude. Then comes a brutal kick. The guy barks that cleaning is his only job since they took him in after his parents died. A woman watches the whole thing with this sick smile, saying he is just as useless as his dead folks. And trust me on this, they are absolute garbage adoptive parents. Next room over, their kid gets right in his face, aggressively blaming Rakuto for the whole situation. The brat literally dumps out a soda right on the floor, telling Rakuto to clean it up. He gets right up in our already bruised MC's face, mocking him and acting like giving him work is some huge favor. Later on, Rakuto hits school. His desk is totally wrecked with graffiti and some completely out-of-pocket memorial flowers. Meanwhile, his classmates are just cracking up from a distance. The teacher walks in, sees the trash desk, and instantly goes off, demanding to know why Rakuto would ever ruin school property like that. Next thing you know, 3 bullies slam him hard against the lockers. They start roasting him, demanding a daily tax of 2,000 yen. Right then, Rakuto just feels so incredibly trapped and utterly powerless. He shoots them a glare and clenches his fists, but gets totally humbled with a brutal kick to the gut and a massive punch straight to the jaw. The beatdown keeps going. One of the guys calls him pathetic, accusing our boy of looking down on them. They literally tell him to just go beg his parents for cash. Taking the hits, Rakuto thinks everyone in this world is straight garbage, but he honestly believes he is the absolute worst of them all. Once the main bully finally stops punching, Rakuto drops his phone and it instantly catches their full attention. Rakuto reaches for it, but the guy just aggressively stomps it. Seeing the busted screen, the bully fakes an apology. Oops, his foot just slipped. Rakuto just hangs his head in pure defeat and the bully raises his leg for round 2. But someone steps in out of nowhere, telling him to let it go. Enter Nishi, the absolute goated star of the archery team and the reigning national tournament champion. Everyone in the hall is completely shook, and the girls are swooning. One whispers how epic he looks even while saving a total loser like Kurigane. Nishi locks a heavy, unyielding grip onto the bully's shoulder. The bully asks what his problem is, secretly freaking out over how insanely strong the archer's grip feels. A sidekick sneaks up with a baseball bat, but Nishi drops him with a lightning-fast punch before he can even swing. With that guy out cold, Nishi casually mentions he hates seeing trashy public drama. He tells everyone to scramble. Takeda and his crew immediately dip out, calling the whole nonsensical situation totally stupid. Once they leave, Nishi squats down next to our boy and asks if he is still breathing. He tells Rakuto he needs to actually fight back, explaining those guys only step on him because he acts like a complete doormat. He seriously asks how living like this is even a life. Rakuto just stands right up, turns his back, and snaps at Nishi. What could a golden boy possibly know about his reality? But Nishi is actually super surprised to see him standing perfectly fine. After taking that kind of absolute beating, he wonders if Rakuto somehow took way less damage than it looked. He even wonders if the kid managed to secretly dodge the hits right at the final second. He brushes that off real quick though, muttering that dodging like that is straight out of a movie. Back in the present, Rakuto is still on that roof, watching all those students down there goofing off and living their best lives. He just sits on the ground staring at his completely shattered phone screen with a look of absolute misery. Staring up at the sky, he decides this whole run is over. He is totally exhausted from taking L's every single day, so he pulls himself up onto the rooftop safety fence. Sitting up on the ledge with his arms stretched out, he repeats that he is finally pulling the plug on this whole stupid game. Watch closely now. Suddenly, massive lightning strikes tear across the whole sky, forming these crazy circles right between the blasts. Out of nowhere, giant streams of glowing binary codes start raining down on the city like solid bars. It absolutely wrecks the buildings down below. Everyone on the street starts dropping their phones as the devices blast out these super creepy glitchy noises. Kurigane looks up. A perfectly clear sky, but lightning just struck out of nowhere. His brain is totally short-circuiting. Then a weird noise grabs his attention. Peeking down at the courtyard, he spots a student screaming their lungs out. Their phone is completely bugging out. Literal binary code leaks from the screen and blows up into this massive digital bubble. Then it straight up solidifies into absolute nightmare fuel. The thing morphs into a savage monster with a sick grin. Suddenly, every single student's phone starts spawning dragons, goblins, and pure beasts. The monsters instantly go on the hunt. Up on the safe roof, Rakuto hears brutal screams. He watches the students getting absolutely bodied down below. They drop one by one. The poor guy cannot even process this insane reality check. Hordes of crazy monsters just spawned worldwide. Watch this, human society basically gets unplugged in a split second. Rumor has it the global population got totally wiped out, dropping to less than 10% of its peak. Nobody knew what caused this apocalyptic glitch until a specific squad of kids finally dug up the actual truth. At first, the only solid fact was these freaks spawned straight out of regular smartphones. In this wild post-chaos world, surviving players gave that event a hardcore title, the Day of Judgment. Chilling on the roof railing, Kurigane actually wonders if fantasy mobs are legit wiping out the human race right now. He cracks a smile. He actually thinks he manifested this whole game over scenario himself. Down below, everyone is screaming for their lives. To him, it feels like a sick fever dream. Every single hater who ever told him to touch grass is getting utterly wrecked. He feels this twisted satisfaction, totally convinced they are getting their karma. All the bullies who clowned on him are now monster chow. As far as he cares, they can all rot in hell. Still smirking, Rakuto wonders how this hallucination feels so high-def. Even random background characters he has never met are getting chased down. But watching the bloodbath, his hype quickly crashes into pure despair. What is even happening? Why isn't this dream logging him out yet? His actual life has always been absolute trash. His parents are dead, his social circle is toxic, and his own brother does not even matter. The whole run felt pointless. Now crying, he realizes this is messed up. No matter how much he hated them, getting eaten alive is way too far. Mid-breakdown, a heavy noise hits. The roof door creaks wide open. A goblin steps out, scaring him half to death. The thing is literally holding a severed head. Seeing that gore, reality finally smacks him. This is no dream. In one horrifying second, he knows this survival horror is completely real. The goblin leaps at him, swinging a massive machete for his neck. He dodges by throwing himself backward off the railing. He hits the concrete roof just as the blade misses him. Scrambling up, pure panic sets in. Staring at the bloody head in its hand, he is fully convinced his health just hit zero. Terrified, he wonders if his entire playthrough really ends right here. But the dark part of his brain whispers it does not matter. He was already planning to rage quit life anyway. He wanted out of this stupid game. Real life was total garbage. Getting deleted here or somewhere else honestly makes zero difference. Suddenly, a totally new feeling overrides the doom. He refuses to get taken out like this. He realizes he actually wants to stay in the game. Snatching up a rusted iron bar, he parries the goblin's next brutal swing. The crazy impact floors him. Laying there, he realizes dying in real life isn't poetic, it's just cheap, messy, and pathetic. The moment that clicks, he decides he is not catching a game over today. He pushes back against the beast with everything. Fueled by this sick adrenaline spike, he screams out that he refuses to die. This is definitely not the finale he scripted. He grips the metal pipe for dear life, barely keeping that rusty machete out of his face. Humans have this ultimate try-hard mode, it's called the zone. It's that goated mental state where focus hits max level. This is where things get wild, you unlock perfect control over your body. Riding that insane focus buff, the kid smashes the goblin right between the legs, dropping it to the floor. They say once you enter the zone, your spatial awareness gets completely hacked. You see absolutely everything perfectly. Your reflexes instantly pick the best combo. With the monster staggered, he just goes wild, bashing it over and over with the iron pipe. Once the goblin stops twitching, Rakuto stares at the carnage. Pure shock totally paralyzes him on the spot. He violently throws up, ripping out a gut-wrenching scream. He realizes his entire life before this was just the tutorial, and that exact trauma sparks a desperate raw hunger to survive. Then a random voice snaps him out of it, asking if he is okay. Sitting up, he realizes the guy talking is Nishi, who is totally hyped to see him alive. Nishi drops a smile, admitting that the insane amount of blood gushing from his head had him sweating. Rakuto instantly recognizes the archer. As he gets up on his feet and turns around, Nishi warns him to take a chill pill and not push it. Peering through the chain-link fence, Rakuto sees the whole city absolutely up in flames. He scopes the area, spotting a bunch of terrified students huddled nearby. That includes Takeda, Tani, and Arata, the exact same bullies who jumped him earlier, now looking completely shook and stressed. Sakura chimes in, saying this whole situation is straight up impossible. Uyama, their gym teacher, wraps an arm around her and tells everyone to stay super close. He swears he's going to protect her and keep her safe, but Sakura is visibly sketched out. Watching this go down, the other girls whisper about the super creepy way the teacher is eyeing Sakura, feeling pretty bad for her. Rakuto locks eyes on a massive pile of random junk. Nishi explains it's a makeshift barricade they threw together with straight-up garbage to block the monsters. He breaks down how everyone tried dodging those freaky creatures by bolting up to the roof where they built that janky wall to stay safe. Putting a hand to his face, Rakuto realizes they literally left other people behind inside the school. People were screaming from the other side of that barricade. Students ran up the stairs begging for their lives, but Ueyama and some other guy completely refused to tear down the wall. By the time Nishi actually showed up, only horrific screams were echoing from the other side. Nishi admits he feels incredibly guilty and sick over not opening up that door, even though he firmly believes opening it would have gotten all of them totally wiped out. Rakuto reassures him it's absolutely not his fault. Nobody wanted this nightmare, and Rakuto himself had to go all out just to survive the chaos. Staring at the dead monster, Nishi asks if Rakuto actually soloed it. The archer is completely rattled, saying he could never even imagine doing something that crazy himself. He adds that if he had that kind of god-tier guts, he probably could have saved the other students. Suddenly, a loud scream cuts them off. Now watch how crazy this gets. They spot the gym teacher telling everyone to wake up, starting with how the monsters literally spawn from their smartphones. Sakura agrees, showing her screen. It looked fine at first, but now it's totally bricked. Another kid shows theirs is basically a paperweight too. It quickly clicks that nobody has a working phone, and Rakuto already smashed his to pieces earlier. The teacher whines about having zero way to dial for backup. Rakuto starts using his brain, piecing together what this actually means. If these beasts jump straight out of phones, there is definitely a link. But nothing popped out of his own screen, and he wonders if that's just because his device was already busted. Ueyama butts in, saying they are getting nowhere and insists they just hold the fort here. His big brain plan is waiting for the cops or military to save them, asking if everyone is vibing with that. Rakuto asks if the guy is legit being serious, completely confusing the teacher. He breaks it down: since monsters literally spawn from phones, they are probably swarming the entire city, not just locking down their school. Think about how addicted everyone is to their screens, especially in Japan. He argues the whole entire world is probably dealing with this absolute apocalypse. He finishes by saying there's zero chance the police or special ops are even alive to help them. Hearing this harsh reality check, the kids start completely losing their minds. Nishi suggests they better find a safer spot instead of camping on the roof. Rakuto backs him up if they don't want to end up as monster food. Moving out is the only smart play. Right then, Takeda jumps up screaming, asking why a total loser like Rakuto thinks he can just boss them around. He stomps over, grabs Rakuto right by the collar, and threatens to beat some sense into him so he remembers his place in the pecking order. Rakuto gives zero reaction. He just stares right back, which deeply unnerves the bully. Rakuto genuinely wonders if this guy needs to touch grass, picking a fight during an actual apocalypse. The other students actually side with Takeda and start throwing shade at Rakuto. Nishi and Sakura scramble to cool everyone down before it escalates. Takeda taunts him, asking if fear straight up stole his voice. But Rakuto is just standing there thinking this bully looks like an angry little chihuahua compared to the dead monster nearby. Still trying to get a reaction, Takeda yells another demand. Rakuto finally claps back, telling the guy to quit yapping about stupid drama because it's getting mad annoying. That brutal comeback leaves the whole squad shook. Cursing him out, Takeda throws a heavy punch. Nishi tries to jump in, but Rakuto casually catches Takeda by the arm, locks him in a chokehold, and slams him brutally into the concrete. The crowd is absolutely shook by this zero hesitation takedown. Pinned to the floor, the bully screams out, begging Rakuto to let him go. Rakuto just takes in the absolute joke of a situation. He literally cannot fathom how he was ever scared of a guy like Takeda. Even while pinned, Takeda keeps running his mouth with empty threats, so Rakuto just casually presses down harder. Worried this is about to go way too far, Nishi grabs Rakuto by the arm. He thinks the guy might actually snap Takeda in half. Staring him down, Nishi is completely baffled. There is no way this absolute unit is the same kid who used to get bullied. The rest of the class watches this unfold, totally mind blown. The second he gets released, Takeda scrambles up, going right back to cursing and throwing threats. Completely done with this, the archer yells at him to chill. Now is not the time for PvP. That finally makes the bully back off. Nishi turns to Rakuto and suggests they just drop the drama, and Rakuto totally agrees. Facing the group, Rakuto drops some actual logic. They need to figure out their next move instead of wasting energy on useless beef. The bully keeps yapping angrily in the background, but the teacher finally steps up, asking if they can get back on track. Nishi lays the hard truth on the teacher and the group. Hiding here provides zero loot. He explains that a rescue team might literally never show up. They desperately need a safe zone plus some actual food and water right now. Rakuto chimes in right there. They are definitely going to need weapons too. Sakura asks if a safe zone like that even exists anymore. The archer straight up admits that is the million-dollar question. Rakuto says they have to scout the building interior. They cannot cook up a solid plan without knowing if the hallways are even safe to walk. Stegu instantly shuts that down. He argues it is way too sketchy with monster spawns probably lurking out there. He insists they should just camp here and wait for rescue. The teacher nods along, saying the kid actually makes a solid point, but the teacher suggests they should at least quickly scout out the hallway. The rest of the class completely rages. Who would willingly walk right into a monster-filled death trap? Out of nowhere, the teacher calls on Rakuto and Takeda, ordering them to go check the interior. Totally spooked, Takeda immediately deflects. He tells the teacher to go touch grass and lead by example instead. The teacher straight up refuses, claiming his job is to guard the class. A few girls agree, saying the guys should man up and go. Takeda gets hyper-defensive and starts insulting them. Meanwhile, Rakuto just grabs his iron pipe from earlier and walks straight toward the barricade. Shaking in his boots, Takeda asks if he is actually serious, a question Rakuto throws right back at him. Rakuto explains the harsh truth. Stalling here only makes their stats drop harder. It is a choice between starving or becoming monster chow. And honestly, guys, would you just sit there? He refuses to get a game over on this roof, meaning action is mandatory. Hyped up by that speech, Nishi snags his archery gear. He loudly declares that Rakuto is totally right. He locks in his decision to join the raid, pointing out they might actually find other survivors out there. A terrified Uyama warns Nishi if this run goes south, the blame is entirely on him. The girls also beg him not to throw his life away. Right on cue, Rakuto calls the teacher out for being a massive hypocrite. He tells Nishi he is honestly glad for the backup, joking that the Chihuahua over there clearly isn't joining the party. Nishi is super confused by the nickname at first, but seeing Takeda literally vibrating with fear, Rakuto thinks the dude is a perfect match. He double-checks if Nishi is really locked in for this. He keeps it real, this dungeon crawl has a ridiculously high chance of ending in an ambush. Flashing a smile, Nishi says he refuses to log out today. He actually has a real reason to make it through this. His mind flashes to a girl waiting by a window. Remembering his own crazy resolve from earlier, Rakuto tells his new teammate he seems pretty goated. Nishi fires back, guessing Rakuto must have his own sick motivation to keep fighting. Making things slightly awkward, Nishi points out he hasn't even learned the guy's name yet. After a quick intro and some casual banter, the duo slips past the barricade and officially enters the danger zone. Rakuto and Nishi push down a hallway absolutely covered in bodies. The archer mutters that this whole nightmare feels unreal. His bro just hits him with the cold truth. This is simply their new reality. Nishi nods, but he is super confused about the zero monster spawn rate. No complaints. Just weirdly anticlimactic. Rakuto throws out a wild theory the monsters might have just ditched the school and hit the city. When Nishi asks why Rakuto drops the grim logic, the school ran out of easy prey, so the horde moved out to find a better farming spot. The archer totally agrees. That dark theory is probably spot on. Mid-conversation, Rakuto spots something off and totally cuts off his buddy before he can even speak. A weird wet slapping sound echoes from down the hall. They instantly go on high alert and creep toward the edge. Nishi peeks around the corner. Bingo, a single goblin just chilling in the hallway. One look is all it takes between these two. They silently agree they can totally clap a solo target. Nishi draws his bow, getting his gear completely locked and loaded. Keeping a safe distance, the archer takes a quick breath and lets a crazy precise shot fly. Bullseye. The arrow blasts right through the goblin's chest from behind. But thanks to some wild tank stats, this monster refuses to go down from just one hit. It snaps around, locks onto Nishi, and drops a straight-up demonic screech as it rushes him. Panic mode activated. Nishi completely freezes up, totally unable to knock another arrow before this ugly thing blitzes him. But Rakuto totally intercepts the rush. He smacks the creature right in the dome with his pipe, sending it stumbling back. The goblin scrambles to recover, but Rakuto is already right in its face. He drops a goated combo of heavy hits, completely deleting the monster. Nishi walks up to the loot drop, joking that his bro is just as savage as he thought. Rakuto checks if any other creeps are lurking around. Nishi scopes it out and confirms the coast is clear. Their quick ambush actually worked flawlessly. Catching his breath, Rakuto points out how insane it is that monsters exist that could just absolutely wipe normal humans. He thinks back to the massive dragons he saw earlier. Nishi tilts his head, totally lost on what his friend means. Rakuto explains that literally every single mob they have seen so far looks straight out of an RPG binge session. Like the nasty dude they just packed up, it is 100% a textbook goblin. Rakuto swears he has seen these exact enemy designs in a game somewhere before. Reality check hits hard. Nishi starts shaking, finally processing that if that goblin had actually connected a hit, it was straight up game over for him. Gripping his bow tight, he admits the brutal truth. This is not some virtual reality, they are actually putting their actual lives on the line out here. Rakuto nods hard. No leveling up, no cheat codes, zero magic to bail them out. They are just regular dudes. Still, Nishi points out his bro fights like an absolute unit. He asks if Rakuto ever touched grass at a dojo or had a secret master. That sparks a quick flashback for Rakuto, remembering the day he utterly wrecked his own brother in a sparring match, but he brushes it off, saying he never took real classes. Which begs the question, with skills like that, why did he always let people push him around? Rakuto just shrugs, not really having a good answer. Moving forward, the boys stumble onto a completely wrecked room, ablaze with fire and scattered bodies, but they keep pushing on. Nishi notices the dead silence, guessing that the goblin they just clapped was the only mob spawning on this 6th floor. Rakuto figures this floor was mostly empty training rooms anyway, so casualties were low, but he heavily warns that the lower floors might be completely swarming with enemies. Before they hit the stairs, Rakuto stops them cold, wanting to lock in their actual game plan. He reminds his friend their main quest is just recon. Nishi totally agrees they just need a head count of survivors and a solid map of the best escape routes. Grabbing every bit of intel they can find is crucial before making a real move. But Rakuto cuts in. The only objective that matters is making it back alive. He lays down a hardcore rule: if things go south, they drop the party and ditch each other to survive. No hesitation. Trying to keep the vibes somewhat chill, Rakuto smirks and says it is a literal apocalypse, so no hard feelings if someone runs. Nishi is about to roast him for acting like an edgy lone wolf, but a desperate scream from downstairs violently interrupts him. Rakuto freezes for 1 second, then absolutely sprints downward. And right then, Nishi realizes exactly who his bro really is. A guy who could never actually abandon anyone in a tough spot. But get a load of this downstairs, a new mini-boss is roaming the halls. Way beefier than a goblin rocking horns and an iron club. Hiding inside a locker, Kotone is literally holding her breath. But peeking through the vents, she watches pure nightmare fuel unfold. Filthy goblins are ripping clothes off her screaming classmates right in the open. She wants to jump out and save them, but fear keeps her absolutely rooted to the spot. One girl begs the monster to stop, but the creep just goes into a total frenzy and lunges at her. Kotone slams her eyes shut and covers her ears, completely breaking down as the horrific scene plays out outside. Crying silently, she begs for forgiveness, hating herself for constantly ducking conflict and always running away. Her mind flashes back. She is just standing in the crowd watching Rakuto getting absolutely demolished by the class bullies. She remembers thinking she really should step up and stop the beatdown. Shaking like crazy, she tries telling them to chill, but the blonde bully straight up kicks Rakuto in the face. She instantly shrinks back, apologizing in her head. Then Seku grabs her shoulder, calling her name. He asks what is going on, saying class is about to start. Totally frozen, she just lets him drag her away from the scene, leaving poor Rakuto eating dirt right there on the floor. Tachibana wakes up inside the cabinet. The pure stress of watching that whole nightmare literally made her pass out. Absolute panic kicks in as she wonders what happened to the others and how long she has been out. Freaking out, she scrambles to pull her phone right out of her pocket. But her hands are sweating bullets, and it slips clattering loud as hell onto the floor. She completely freezes up. The noises outside spike for a second, then drop into absolute dead silence. Her anxiety goes off the charts. Hearing zero sound, she realizes she's totally busted. And here is where things go south. 2 goblins rip the cabinet doors wide open. Looking out, the room is packed with dead classmates, including her bestie Misaki. One goblin grabs her hair, violently yanking her straight out of hiding. The ugly creep starts tearing at her clothes while she screams her lungs out. Out of nowhere, a massive new monster rolls up, one-shotting the goblin and leaving her absolutely terrified. The rest of the goblins jump this new guy, but he literally wipes the squad with one sweep. Completely shook, the girl lets out a desperate screeching cry for somebody to save her. Somewhere else in the building, the 2 guys hear the yell and immediately book it toward the sound. The huge beast scoops her up one-handed, dragging the dead goblins down the hallway like heavy trash. She cries and begs him to let her go, which just pisses it off. The monster slams her against the wall, knocking her out cold. From a distance, Rakuto and Nishi spot the absolute unit. Nishi is totally terrified, doubting his arrows would even scratch a boss like that. His buddy admits his gut feeling about this place was spot on. Nishi is just like, what even is that thing? Rakuto flips it on him. Didn't he think it was super weird how empty the last floor was? He explains this big guy is exactly why. Nishi finally gets it. The goblins were just getting farmed by an apex predator way higher up. He says this boss is way too beefy and territorial. There is literally zero chance they can beat it alone. Spacing out, the archer starts stressing hard over the captured girl. He nearly has a heart attack seeing Kurigane stand right up. The dude blows their cover, walking straight toward the monster. Nishi demands to know what on earth he is doing. Rakuto says he is saving her since she is still breathing. Nishi asks if he wants to die today. He points out they would definitely get clapped fighting that absolute beast alone. He presses Rakuto hard. Is this some main character syndrome, some goofy justice trip, risking his own neck out here without even thinking it through? Rakuto brings up Nishi's earlier question about feeling alive. He admits, yeah, he really wants to feel that now. Almost getting game overed by that very first goblin, seriously, flipped a switch in his brain. He wants to survive more than anything, and he promised himself he would never let things get that depressing again. So he drops the mic. He is saving the girl just because he feels like it. Moving on his own terms like this, that is his ultimate proof that he is actually alive right now. Nishi calls the whole idea completely unhinged. Getting one-shotted by a monster is supposed to be living the Kurigane just shrugs, saying Nishi does not have to tag along. This boss raid is totally a solo mission. His older brother flashes into his mind. He remembers Serato calling him completely useless. Serato literally roasted him for having zero cash, no family, no friends, saying he was basically an NPC and should act like one. Rakuto honestly pities his brother now. He swears he will never be a walking corpse again, even if trying gets him killed. The archer cuts him off right there, grabbing his shoulder. He randomly drops that he has a stepsister going to a totally different high school. When asked why he is lore dumping right now, Nishi explains he cannot die here either. If he does, his sister is left completely alone. Plus, ditching the captured girl and running away would just be a massive L. He figures if his own sister was stuck in a nightmare like this, he'd totally step up. This makes him seriously question if he can actually fight and protect her. Honestly, making up some lame excuse and dipping out would straight up haunt him forever. Because of that, he tells Kurogane he is fully in to body this monster and save the girl together. Kurogane points out they are both about to do something insanely reckless for totally selfish reasons, asking if he's actually cool with it. Rakuto just laughs, saying the archer must be absolutely out of his mind too. Embarrassed, the archer claps back that a guy gotta keep his pride. Now on the same page, they start cooking up a plan. Nishi asks his bro for the game plan, pointing out that rushing in blindly would be way too sketchy. Kurogane reveals he actually has a wild idea if Rakuto is down to throw hands, and the duo starts coordinating. The girl wakes up to straight nightmare fuel. She is tied to a plank next to some goblins getting roasted alive like actual barbecue. Mid-snack, the ugly beast notices she is totally wide awake. Absolutely terrified, she lets out a massive scream. That is the exact green light the boys need to go full send on their crazy plan. Sprinting in, the archer mutters that after hearing Rakuto's whole strategy, he is absolutely certain. The dude is completely unhinged. Meanwhile, losing hope, the girl genuinely thinks it's game over. She is about to be cooked and eaten by this freak. Sobbing, she begs for her life. Catching her squirming, the beast stomps over, knocks her flat, and scoops up the plank she's tied to, hauling her straight toward the massive bonfire. Feeling the heat, she starts fully panicking. Suddenly, they both spot Kurogane just standing in the doorway yelling for her to shut her eyes. The beast drops her plank and grabs its club. As it charges the guy, Kurogane whips out a literal fire extinguisher and blasts the entire thing straight into the monster's ugly face, blinding it completely. While the big guy is totally blinded, Rakuto rushes Takabana. He starts untying her. She yells his name, but he says he doesn't know her at all, just helping out. In her head, the girl realizes it makes total sense he forgot her there. Is literally no reason he would remember someone like her. Seeing his knife isn't doing squat against the ropes, Kurogane instantly pivots to plan B, smashing a pipe on the floor to signal Nishi. The archer catches the cue and, totally shook, gets ready to pull off his bro's absolutely insane plan. Rolling up to Rakuto, Nishi admits he is sweating bullets but will try his best, begging not to get cancelled if he totally whiffs the shot. Blinking away the foam, the monster spots Kurogane kneeling right by the girl. Absolutely triggered, it unleashes a crazy roar that straight up shatters every single window. Rakuto raises his pipe while the raging boss winds up its heavy iron club. He knows one tiny mistake means an instant game over. Reading its attack pattern, he busts out a Kiryutoshi move, parrying the monster's insane swing and flawlessly deflecting that massive damage to the side. Pure shock and massive relief totally wash over him. He realizes it has been forever since he last flexed that move, but thank God his muscle memory is still absolutely goated. Rakuto holds his ground, pressing the metal bar against this literal demon. The beast tries spamming another attack to catch him slipping, but Rakuto blocks it again, this time smoothly, shifting the strike's angle instead of tanking the whole hit. Their insanely intense showdown just keeps raging on. Rakuto sticks to a min-max strategy, dodging the heavy damage and hitting back using the absolute bare minimum amount of force. He pulls this off by targeting its feet, a clean technique straight out of modern kendo. The MC suddenly thinks of his dad, realizing those hardcore childhood training arcs actually stuck with him for good. For a split second, Rakuto is just low-key grateful for those brutal lessons. The girl watching him style on this monster thinks he's absolutely goated. Forcing himself to chill, our guy remembers these monsters have zero actual skill. Big mistake, because the raging demon winds up for another heavy swing. It instantly throws a massive haymaker at him. Rakuto blocks like his life depends on it, fully trusting his old training. Fully desperate to crush him, the monster just keeps spamming those heavy attacks. Using his skills, the MC lands an insanely precise strike on the beast's wrist. Realizing this giant noob relies on pure unga-bunga strength, the two keep clashing, with both of them just getting more and more tilted. The demon tries another wild swing with its spiked club, but to Rakuto its timing is painfully slow and totally readable. Showing off pure skill, he cleanly dunks a massive hit straight onto the monster's dome. Rakuto knows hitting a normal dude would be way easier than this. The monster shrieks in pain, totally looking nerfed. Watching him parry every single hit, the girl is absolutely hyped. She realizes Rakuto is basically goated. Even though he is running on fumes, our boy refuses to quit. He admits his blocks are landing, but the crazy impact damage is wrecking his HP. With his stamina completely drained, he knows this sick defense will not last much longer. The monster totally switches targets, and Rakuto instantly clocks it. All that try-hard DPS is doing zero lasting damage. Going full defense mode, he automatically sidesteps those massive incoming swings. Sizing up this absolute unit, Rakuto knows a head-on clash is suicide. Time to speedrun a final heavy strike. Standing way back, he yells at the demon to pull its aggro. Smoke starts pouring out of the beast's ears again, a dead giveaway that a crazy attack is loading. But the creature randomly shifts its focus back to the girl tied to the floor plank. It literally grabs the whole plank to use as a cursed weapon. The girl screams her lungs out, and Rakuto realizes things just got super sketchy. The demon just violently swings that massive wooden log. Outside the building, the insane struggle is loud as random objects just completely shatter to pieces. Rakuto scrambles away while the monster wildly swings the plank with the girl on it. Thanks to his crazy speed, he dodges the first few hits, leaving the demon raging. For a split second, the girl feels totally crushed, thinking she actually got left behind. That exact vibe triggers a childhood flashback. We cut to a playground where two toxic kids are bullying her younger self while she cries in the corner. Then a tiny Rakuto pulls up to defend her aggressively, demanding why they need to bother a little kid. Snapping back to reality, she realizes he has always been like this, risking his own neck for others. Real tears stream down her face while she is still strapped to that literal log. Meanwhile, Nishi is watching from the sidelines and decides he has to jump into this wild fight. Seeing Rakuto actually hold his own against that freakish monster, Nishi thinks the guy is straight up legendary. But he also knows Rakuto is basically hitting zero stamina. Moving closer, Nishi quietly begs him to clutch up and pull the demon just 10 more meters. He picks up the pace, rushing straight to the chaos. Arriving on site, his face gets super serious, vowing that he is going to end this whole mess right now. Rakuto keeps sprinting, dragging the monster right behind him. At the perfect moment, he spins around to bash the enemy with his metal pipe. Utterly exhausted, he puts his entire soul into the swing, but his sweaty grip totally slips at the worst time. The monster punishes that blunder with a massive direct hit, launching Rakuto completely through the air. Seriously, this part is tough to watch. He lands completely motionless, leaving the poor girl absolutely horrified. Nearby, Nishi catches the brutal wipeout too, and they both scream out Rakuto's name in pure panic. Our guy is just grounded. Watching this unfold, the archer boy realizes they are in serious trouble now. Nishi remembers his buddy's strict game plan. He needs to snipe one exact weak point, and a miss is not an option for this one-shot moment. If he chokes, his friend is totally dead. Sweating it out, Nishi seriously doubts he can land the shot. He quickly runs through the 3 rules for a perfect hit. Sadly, the angle and distance for this epic snipe are basically trash right now. But Nishi knows time is running out and this monster could spot his hiding spot at any second. He prays the ugly beast moves just a bit closer for a cleaner angle, but waiting around too long might literally cost him the only opening he has. Suddenly, his panicked overthinking gets completely cut off. Battered on the floor, Rakuto suddenly screams out, "Hold your fire." That wild call leaves Nishi standing there super confused. Pushing himself up, his crazy friend yells that he needs to kite the monster a bit closer, begging Nishi to just wait. Squaring up with the demon again, our guy's shaky moves are heavily tracked by the hidden archer. Still strapped to that plank, the crying girl screams Rakuto's name. The monster just keeps pushing forward. Coughing up a storm, a completely drained Rakuto wobbles and suddenly drops to his knees. Thinking it secured the easy dub, the demon starts charging up eye lightning, while Rakuto stares it down. He forces himself up, tossing the iron pipe forward for a desperate block. You have to wonder with him, his legs are basically jelly. Can he actually drag this boss just a few more meters? The opponent growls and roars like an absolute beast, keeping the clash going. Nishi gets completely startled by that intense roar. Still tied to the log, the girl begs Rakuto to bounce before the monster kills him, but our guy tells her not to sweat it. Game face on. Rakuto stares down this huge demon all over again. Desperate, she questions what he is doing, saying she is totally unworthy of his rescue. She admits abandoning him before, so she definitely does not deserve a save. That painful admission triggers a flashback, shifting straight to their old school building. Some bullies are just beating Rakuto down while Kotone watches. Trying to muster some courage, she genuinely considers helping her friend out. Without even thinking, she rushes the group and yells at them to leave Rakuto alone. Suddenly, someone taps her shoulder and calls out. A dude named Sato pulls up and tells Kotone to touch grass instead of getting involved, warning that she could seriously get hurt. He keeps going, saying she just needs to play nice and follow his lead, all while Rakuto is still taking a brutal beating. Totally manipulated, Kotone just agrees to do exactly what Sato suggests. Back at the flashback's end, Kotone tells herself she has always been a complete coward, never able to back up her friend. She is completely tired of just standing by and watching, feeling so utterly powerless. The demon tries to attack again, its roars getting way louder and more intense. Blinded by rage, the monster preps for another massive charge. As it rushes him, Rakuto actually notices that the monster's giant club has lost some momentum. Spotting an opening, Rakuto seizes the moment to strike, but his attack gets completely blocked by the demon's weapon. Once again, our guy gets sent flying and takes more damage. Rakuto crashes super hard onto the ground. Still tied up, Kotone gets thrown too, crashing painfully onto the floor in total despair. Seeing Rakuto floored, the red monster quickly moves in. Freaking out, Kotone begs her friend to run, but he is completely unresponsive. Running on zero energy, Rakuto acknowledges there is basically nothing left for him to do. The massive demon looms right over him, raising its club high to deliver the final brutal blow. But low-key, Rakuto signals Nishi that the target is at the perfect distance. Before the words even land, Nishi is already locked in position, bow drawn. He quickly checks his exact distance and angle. He confidently tells himself he absolutely cannot miss a goated shot like this. Right then, the surprise monster spots the archer and shifts its focus away from Rakuto. Nishi readies up for the sickest attack. Acting with insane precision, he lets the arrow fly, striking the demon dead center in its eye. The story flashes back 10 minutes. Rakuto is handing a syringe to Nishi with specific instructions for using it. Nishi asks if this is the same item Sakura dropped before they explored, which Rakuto confirms with a quick nod. He explains the syringe holds undiluted ethanol straight from a chem lab, basically 100% pure alcohol. They both remember the blonde girl handing it over, so hyped about its potential. Nishi had watched that happen low-key, wondering why she would even carry something like that around. The flashback cuts back to the boys inside the building, where Rakuto instructs his buddy to coat the arrow with alcohol before firing it. Nishi completely doubts this, but Rakuto stays super confident. He explains the alcohol acts like a deadly potion capable of intoxicating literally any living organism. Even a tiny drop injected straight into the bloodstream would completely incapacitate the monster. This whole syringe would be overkill for destroying the demon. Nishi thinks the logic is solid, but he is still highly skeptical about pulling it off. He points out the obvious flaw here. A flimsy needle probably cannot penetrate the monster's insanely tough hide. In response, Rakuto clarifies Nishi must aim right for one specific target, the eye. He figures the eye is definitely vulnerable enough to pierce, though Nishi questions how Rakuto can be so sure about that. We then see a fire extinguisher. Rakuto explains he will use it to test his crazy theory. Looking determined, he plans to spray the monster's face. If it tries shielding its eyes, that proves they are just as weak as a normal humans. So the plan is set. Rakuto starts the fight and Nishi delivers the finishing blow. Wrapping up the strategy, Rakuto says he is totally relying on his friend to make this sick plan work. Jumping back to the present. With that arrow lodged right in its eye, the demon roars in pure agony. Loving this outcome, the archer celebrates their perfectly executed goated plan. That fire extinguisher test totally confirmed the monster's eyes are a massive weak point. The plan was dead simple, but it actually worked. Nishi jokes that he deserves a perfect 10 for that bullseye. Meanwhile, the demon is freaking out, trying to claw the arrow right out of its socket. Still on the ground, Rakuto asks his bro what he thinks. Kotone is just sitting there, absolutely mind-blown by this whole crazy situation. Pure rage mode. The monster rips the arrow and needle from its face and charges the boys, but then it instantly starts stumbling around. Rakuto realizes the alcohol is finally doing its thing. A deafening roar shakes the whole room. Mustering every ounce of strength left, the beast swings its weapon hard, leaving Rakuto completely dizzy for a second. The demon quickly follows up with his second massive strike, but our guy barely manages to dodge it. Nishi panics and yells out to his bro. He realizes the ethanol is definitely toxic, but it is not a one-shot instant kill. Beyond furious now, the beast charges forward. You can literally see all this wild chaos from outside through the busted glass and smashed walls. Things get wild here. Rakuto spots a huge hole in the wall and the demon is heading straight for it. When the monster attacks, Rakuto waits for the absolute last second, then rushes in and tackles this absolute unit right by the waist. Pushing past his limits, he uses every ounce of strength to shove it toward the gap. He tries to completely yeet the creature right out of the building, but this thing is way too heavy for one guy to handle. Rakuto keeps pushing with everything he has. Then something catches his eye. He looks up and sees the monster winding up a brutal overhead strike. Nishi sees this too and immediately sprints over to back his boy up. He grabs the monster by the waist too. Working together, they actually manage to shove their enemy straight through the huge opening. But as the demon falls, Rakuto gets dragged right down with it since he is still holding onto this beast for dear life. Screaming its lungs out, the monster crashes into the pavement below. Rakuto is totally missing, but then he suddenly appears just hanging there in midair. Nishi came through with god-tier reflexes. He caught his bro at the very last second, saving him from a super fatal drop. Down below the demon craters, the pavement totally shattering its giant horns on impact. Kotone watches all this stressing out, but she is flooded with pure relief seeing that her friends are actually safe. She seriously thanks her lucky stars they survived. Rakuto calls out to his buddy, who immediately asks what is going on. He straight up says this whole situation is totally sick and asks if his friend is crazy. Feeling pretty goated after that, Save the Archer replies. They bring up the first place prize from the national tournament, which just leaves Nishi looking super confused. Laughing it off, Nishi jokes that Rakuto desperately needs to go touch grass. Kotona is still tied up and asks for some help getting loose. Grabbing a sharp rock, the boys quickly manage to cut her free. Nishi asks if she is all right and can stand up even though she is clearly dealing with some heavy trauma. Before he even finishes talking, she gets up and walks right past him. She goes straight to Rakuto, hugging him tight and thanking him for the clutch save. Watching this happen, the archer finally puts two and two together. He asks Rakuto what the deal is, teasing him about risking his neck for his girlfriend. This instantly leaves both of them completely shook. Nishi keeps roasting him, saying that for a guy dating such a gorgeous girl, Rakuto is playing it way too cool. Kotone quickly jumps in, firmly stating they are definitely not dating. Rakuto is totally lost here and says he needs to ask something. He straight up asks who this girl even is, leaving the other two completely stunned. Thinking he is just trolling, Nishi says he is taking the joke too far, but Rakuto swears he legit has no clue who she is. Kotone says she totally gets it. It has been forever, so it makes sense he might not recognize her anymore. She introduces herself as Tachibana Kotone, pointing out that they used to go to the exact same school together. Trying to jog his memory, she mentions they were super close, even calling each other by the cute nicknames Riki-chan and Kata-chan back then. Hearing those old nicknames instantly unlocks a core memory for Rakuto. This changes everything. His eyes go wide, she is tied to a dark past he still refuses to forgive. We get hit with a heavy flashback right here. He remembers Kotone as this sweet girl he desperately wanted to protect. It was one battle he felt he absolutely could not lose. In one memory, he violently shoves away some punk who was harassing her. Looking back, he knows this was the exact start of his downfall. Next is a grim conversation about a fatal crash caused by sudden brake failure. We see Rakuto breaking down in the pouring rain, crying over the two bodies from that horrific wreck. He truly feels like a huge part of his soul died right there. Standing nearby, that same creep who harassed Kotone is seen holding a random broken piece that totally came from the ruined car. Rakuto realizes Sarada acts like a literal child but hides a seriously twisted, cold-blooded evil inside him. He keeps venting angrily in his head, stating that dude literally stole everything he had. He flashes back to his sick memory lying straight on the ground with a heavy foot stomping on his head. Wrapping up his thoughts, Rakuto realizes he basically died inside back then. The flashback wraps up. He finally snaps back to reality, completely back in the present moment. Trembling hard, our guy gets physically sick, leaving absolutely everybody totally confused. Kotone panics, asking what on earth is wrong. He tries chilling her out, saying it is totally nothing and he is totally fine now. Nishi jumps in. He points out his bro is clearly not doing okay. Our guy admits he finally remembers who Tachibana is, saying he totally forgot they even went to the exact same school. She apologizes, wishing she had just stepped up and talked to him way sooner. He tells her she made the right call, getting involved in his bullying would have been a total mess. Hearing that, Kotone looks seriously bummed out. Nishi steps up, pointing out the sun is setting fast. They absolutely cannot afford to waste time right now. He asks if she's rolling with them, and she says yes. He knows she is having a rough time, but tells her she has to lock in and understand their wild situation. Right after that, the trio starts moving through the school. At one point, she kneels down to pray for a fallen student. Meanwhile, Nishi is out here casually catching a fire-spitting lizard thing. Zero monsters. They quickly realize the building is completely clear now. Rakuto guesses that since the big boss is wiped, smaller mobs might spawn. The trio locks down the fire doors, clearing straight up to the second floor. Good enough for right now. Get ready for this. Their next objective is heading straight back to the rooftop. Making it back, they find 4 survivors. Everyone is super hyped to see their friends return, calling them the legendary patrol of Nishi. One dude runs up to the archer, showing pure respect and faith. Another guy yells out for Kotone, pulling her into a massive hug. It is Seiju-kun, looking incredibly relieved that she is actually still breathing. In response, she randomly calls out Rakuto instead. Nishi watches the whole awkward exchange, totally sensing that something weird is going down. He asks if this guy knows the girl. The dude quickly introduces himself as Seiju Shinjiro, making it crystal clear he is the official boyfriend of Kadone. Wild info. Sakura is super intrigued hearing that. Kotone gets incredibly embarrassed, but her man reassures her there is absolutely zero reason to feel awkward. He casually drops that their parents already approved their relationship, adding he is proud everyone managed to actually survive this mess. He then thanks Nishi for saving his girl. But the archer instantly redirects the hype, pointing out that Rakuto is the goated one who really deserves the thanks. He explains our main guy is the absolute unit who actually saved her life. Totally blown away, Sakura asks if that is actually legit. The group just keeps the conversation flowing up on the rooftop. A dude named Stinger brings up Nishi, claiming earlier that Rakuto easily wrecked Takeda. He straight up questions if this is even the exact same person. Rakuto claps back. They should just call him Kuraga. A quick flashback shows our guy grabbed by the collar, getting utterly mocked by his bullies. Kotone's boyfriend then thanks our guy, joking that she must have been a massive headache for him. Rakuto brushes it off entirely, saying it was no big deal. Seiju promises everything is totally fine now. He vows to step up and protect her from here on out, asking Rakuto to just leave Kotone in his hands. Pulling Kotone aside, her boyfriend suggests she go chill out and rest, noticing her crazy exhaustion. She pushes back, insisting she still has something huge to say to Rakuto. Our guy and Nishi are left looking completely confused, while Sakura is still absolutely stunned by everything she just watched unfold. The archer then turns and thanks Sakura, explaining that the alcohol she handed over literally saved their lives. She starts nerding out, offering a hardcore scientific breakdown of the monster's actual body makeup. From oxygen molecules to the circulatory system, she breaks down exactly how that alcohol did the trick. Nishi asks why she even had a syringe full of ethanol handy. She freezes, scrambling to come up with a decent answer. Before she can even reply, Oyama-sensei cuts in, demanding Rakuto explain the whole crazy situation. After hearing it, the whole squad agrees they are in a super bad spot. Now brace yourselves, the archer reports finding 0 other survivors besides Tachibana, a massive red flag. Harsh news. It completely crushes the students. They figure out the lower floors are locked down since the fire doors are shut, giving them a pretty decent spot to finally catch some sleep. Nishi declares that with things like this, they can actually hold out for a while longer. The teacher then goes full boss mode, ordering everyone to grab supplies and build a safe base. 2 dudes are heard quietly mocking him straight up, calling him an idiot. The students finally start setting up their brand new base. Everyone pitches in together, organizing the space and doing whatever they can to survive this mess. Meanwhile, Rakuto gets stuck with the most cursed job, hauling the dead bodies all by himself. Kotone points out how utterly messed up it is that Oyama made him do this totally solo. Rakuto just shrugs it off, explaining someone has to do it before these bodies start stinking up the whole place. She asks what his endgame is here, and he admits that trying to bury all these guys would be a massive headache. He decides to dump them on the roof for now, hoping some magic solution just drops out of the sky. Kotone completely agrees with him. Rakuto keeps hauling the bags, fully frustrated and thinking about how insane this whole timeline is. Get this, one of the dead guys he is hauling used to be his biggest high school bully. Going dark for a second, he honestly wonders if those bullies and useless teachers totally deserved getting wiped out. Maybe with them gone, he could finally catch a break and smile, but Kotone completely shatters his dark thoughts. He realizes he still feels dead inside, not even a chuckle, and that is just the worst feeling. He tells her he has not laughed once since this nightmare started. He wonders if it is some twisted karma. Kotone hits him with some serious praise, calling him a legit hero right now and in the past. That title completely catches him off guard. Then she steps up and offers to help him carry them. He asks if she is totally sure about this, since it is a pretty gruesome scene. But she is locked in, refusing to look away from reality, so he finally just lets her help him out. As they keep moving along, somebody suddenly yells out Rakuto's name. He turns around just as a guy tackles him to the floor, scaring the life out of Kotone. It is her enraged boyfriend, demanding to know what Rakuto thinks he is doing with his girl. He aggressively grabs Kotone's arm, yelling that Rakuto absolutely does not need her, dragging around these gross dead bodies. Imagine being Rakuto right now, lying there on the dirt, totally lost while this ridiculous soap opera plays out. Seiju starts talking absolute trash, saying Rakuto is slick for making Kotone do his dirty work. He claims the guy should touch grass for forcing a girl into something so vile. Kotone immediately jumps in to defend him, making it crystal clear that she was the one who volunteered. Her boyfriend acts like he knows everything. He is totally convinced Rakuto guilt-tripped her into this after saving her life. She looks at him like he is insane. Seiju then threatens to put Rakuto on blast and tell the camp. Rakuto stays completely quiet, his brain still trying to buffer. Kotone steps up again, asking why Seiju is acting so incredibly toxic toward her friend right now. He strictly tells her to shut up. Rakuto just sighs, telling the guy he honestly does not care, do whatever. Seeing Rakuto completely unbothered, Seiju just lets out this super awkward, nervous little laugh. He calls Rakuto a master bluffer, claiming the guy actually looks like he is about to totally snap. Finally, he yanks his girlfriend away, shouting that she has absolutely no business hanging around this place. Rakuto goes back to his hauling job, shooting a quick glance over his shoulder. Suddenly, Kotone aggressively rips her arm away from Seiju. She firmly announces she is completely done listening to his garbage. Seiju totally panics, asking what her problem is. She just unloads all her feelings on him, admitting she only dated him because their parents are rich and she's officially over it. The guy's brain short-circuits. He genuinely thought the two of them were completely endgame. She actually starts crying right there, sending her boyfriend into full panic mode. Rakuto finally steps in, asking them to take their toxic breakup elsewhere because he has work to do. Seiju tells him to shut his mouth. Rakuto ignores him and asks Kotone to chill out, while Seiju keeps crying that she won't survive without his protection. That specific word makes her freeze. She looks at him absolutely disgusted that he brought up protection. She flat out accuses him of throwing her to the wolves just to save his own skin. Caught red-handed, the boyfriend calls her completely clueless, but she firmly states she knows exactly who he really is now. You already know what happened, right? Let's check the receipts. Flashback to the monster attack with these two trapped in a hallway. She suggested pushing for the roof to get to safety, but right as they got close, Seiju literally tripped her on purpose. She slammed into the hard floor and he just bolted. She was on the ground, desperately begging him not to leave. But he ignored her entirely while the monsters closed in. Totally terrified, she dove into a nearby locker to save herself from getting eaten. Hearing the whole story, Seiju completely loses his mind. He calls Cap on her whole story, totally shocked she would even say that. But Tachibana holds her ground, absolutely no way she is wrong about what went down. She wraps it up by saying her trust in her ex-boyfriend is totally dead. Honestly, she adds they never should have been a thing in the first place. Fired up, she demands her ex just forget about her. She straight up tells him she never wants to see his face again. Ever. Hearing all this, Seiju asks Hotoni if she is actually catching feelings for Rakuto. Then he just starts busting out laughing, leaving her totally stressed and confused. Pissed off, he tells her to shut up. He actually tries to punch her, barking that she needs to just do exactly what he says. But before that hit connects, Rakuto steps in and grabs his wrist. Super chill, he asks them both to just let him work in peace. Then he patiently lets go of Seiju. Seiju snaps back that Rakuto always had this weird vibe even when he used to hang out with those sketchy, dead-looking thugs. Finally, Kotona's toxic ex asks why every single person who bullied Rakuto ended up dead. Tachibana jumps in telling him he needs to touch grass. Seiju just scoffs at her. Rakuto then says he has a question for him. He straight up asks what the point of the whole slander campaign even was. Honestly, he does not care, since it will not make Seiju any more important anyway. Furious, Seiju calls him a creep and asks how he dares lecture a goated model student. Seiju tries to throw hands, and when Kanani tries to break it up, she gets told to stay out of it. Totally losing it, the ex yells that a guy like Rakuto should just bounce for everyone's sake. Our boy stays completely unbothered. Seiju keeps yapping, saying Kurigane is not special just for fighting some monster. Meanwhile, Rakuto notices Seiju pushing up with real karate stances, which probably means he is super high ranked in it. Knowing exactly what this guy wants, Rakuto just says thanks, but he is absolutely not throwing down. Seiju calls him a total coward, but Rakuto literally does not care. Kurigane lays it out whether Seiju likes it or not, he is Tachibana's friend now. Because of that, he will not hurt him. Imagine being that chill. Seiju completely rages at this rejection and still tries forcing a fight, yelling that Rakuto never shuts up. Thanks to years of dojo grinding, Rakuto can easily defend himself. He dodges the first punch with zero effort. Then a heavy kick totally whiffs him too. Finally hits Seiju after going head-to-head with a giant monster. Nothing phases Kurigane anymore. Seeing his insane mental stats, Seiju strikes again, but Rakuto just sidesteps. This makes the ex eat dirt right onto one of the body bags. He totally freaks out, seeing a literal corpse through a rip in the plastic. Trolling him, Kurigane asks if he wants to help carry the bodies. Now raging even harder, Seiju snatches up a wooden plank as a weapon. Right then a sudden noise drops. They look over and spot Nishi watching them. The archer asks, what is going on? Rakuto plays it off as nothing, but his bro clearly is not buying it. The tension is insane. Nishi reads the room, gets super suspicious, and asks Tachibana if she is actually cool with this mess. Seiju finally just takes the L, muttering that everything is fine before storming off. He walks right past the archer, looking insanely salty. Nishi thinks about how Seiju is basically goated at sports and academics, but that obsession with Koton yikes. He just hopes it does not spark a brawl. Rakuto asks why his buddy showed up, and Nishi says his own chores were done, so he came to carry. He says sorry for leaving Rakuto doing solo work, but our guy just waves it off like it is nothing. The bros lock in a fist bump, gotta love that real loyalty. Tachibana feels genuinely happy watching their solid friendship. They decide to haul the bodies up to the roof and link up later to plan their next move. Time skips ahead and night drops. Everyone huddles up in a makeshift shelter while the teacher just watches them. A single loot box of supplies looks like enough to keep them alive for a bit. Students pretty much agree Oyama is just annoying. Nishi says he has zero appetite, while Rakuto is over here having a whole feast. He warns his bros that if they skip meals, it is literal game over. The archer agrees, but says his stomach is just in knots right now. Out of nowhere, a crazy scream rings out, leaving everyone super confused. It is Sakura staring at her phone and losing it over why it will not turn on. Nishi walks up to ask what is going wrong. He spots her holding a charger, and she explains she looted it to charge her phone up, but the thing is completely bricked. He thinks it over, guessing maybe someone already used it. But Sakura swears it is brand new since it was still sealed in the wrapper. They finally decide to round up every phone that just spawned those monsters. Sakura is super bummed about having zero internet. She just wanted to get online and doomscroll for answers. Koton asks how the internet could even work without electricity anyway. The blonde girl claims it totally would work. Their area is a hyped-up development zone running completely off its own internal grid. Nishi admits the tech talk goes right over his head, but he definitely wants to hear more. Sakura then bets a monster would not pop out if she grabbed a phone now. Right on cue, a guy tosses her a device. It is Kurigane. He asks if this is a smartphone that actually did not spawn anything. His screen was busted way before things went crazy, keeping it totally monster-free. Nishi guesses the broken hardware is exactly what saved his life. Kotone notices the busted phone is the exact same model as hers. A friend calls it super retro, noting they used to own one too. Hearing this chatter, Sakura suddenly wonders if they can actually fix it. Kujo starts brainstorming ways to repair the hardware, admitting she finally sees a tiny ray of hope here. Pacing around the school, Nishi warns everyone that waiting here is just asking for a total disaster. Their scavenged snacks will honestly barely last them 3 days. Plus, Rakuto flexes that his basic steel pipe is still superior to any of their other available weapons right now. The brown-haired guy keeps it absolutely real. They are basically completely screwed, but he swears they still have a fighting chance. Kujo thinks fixing Kurigane's phone is totally doable if they rip the right salvage parts straight out of Tachibana's device. Flashing a super awkward smile, the blonde stutters that she can probably repair it. The rest of the crew just stares at her completely stressed out. Dripping with sarcasm, Kurigane thanks Takeda for acting like a jerk and smashing his screen. The bully completely loses his cool, screaming about why fixing a phone even matters. Tuya shuts him down instantly. A working phone gets them back online to actually figure out what kind of apocalyptic mess this even is. They could finally text other living survivors or track down some legit emergency shelters nearby. You can literally see a tiny spark of hype returning to the squad's exhausted faces right here. Kotone asks about the computer lab. Kujo quickly cuts in those machines are completely bricked too. The rescued girl calls cap on that, but Kujo explains that even though the machines were powered down, the monsters completely trashed the network terminals. Yanking her blonde hair, she groans that this entire supernatural glitch is giving her a massive headache. Despite internally freaking out, Nishi desperately tries to keep his focus. He points out that only a phone busted before the chaos even started has a chance of getting online. Their absolute main quest now is finding other lucky survivors just like Rakuto, and the guy with the pipe totally agrees. Looking to loot some repair tools, Rakuto asks Sakura if that local discount store is actually their best drop zone right now. She looks pretty skeptical, but finally admits it sounds like a very solid play. Two terrified girls chime in, begging the group to speedrun over there right now for fresh weapons and snacks. Sensei Wayama suddenly screams at them to stop. He completely rejects the plan, calling it a straight-up suicide mission. Kurigane snaps right back. If they just camp out here, they will literally rot to death. The angry teacher insists authorities might still pull off a clutch rescue before things hit zero. A loud argument kicks off the teacher, crying about monsters lurking everywhere. Kurigane shoots that down, pointing out the store is literally a short walk from their current base. Rakuto argues that driving a car makes it an incredibly easy raid, literally begging the teacher to chauffeur them. Wayama just stares back with pure, unadulterated terror. Tuya insists they have zero other choices. Driving is way less sketchy than walking outside on foot. Shaking in deep in denial, the teacher begs them to rethink this. He yells that leaving is totally off the table, he has to protect everyone, and camping here is for their own good. Stressed out, the bow guy mutters that this cowardice is becoming a serious problem. But here is the massive plot twist. Kotone confidently stands up, declaring she will drive the car herself. A stunned Nishi asks how a high schooler even knows how. She flexes that her grandpa used to let her drift his farm truck all the time back in the day. Her furious boyfriend steps up to cancel her plan, but she instantly tells him to back off and touch grass. Kurigane asks if she is genuinely sure, warning that it is a literal death game outside. Even a car cannot guarantee their safety, which makes the girl visibly sweat. The long-haired girl fires back. She is absolutely not ready to die today. With the current chaos, she has zero clue what is actually going on, but she refuses to go out like this. She straight up says that if they have even a 1% chance, they have to risk it. The guy holding the steel pipe gives her this totally hyped look. He gets it, telling her he is totally relying on her strength now. Her boyfriend gets instantly triggered by that. Right on cue, a totally mauling Wayama smashes his fist onto a cutting board, jump-scaring the whole class. He demands to know why they are making moves without asking him first. He starts screaming, claiming he is the teacher in charge of their safety and absolutely banning them from doing whatever they want. Nishi tries to step in, arguing they desperately need a plan, but the furious teacher just snaps at him to shut his mouth. The students are totally paralyzed while the teacher keeps raging, calling Tuya a literal child and demanding everyone just follow his exact orders. He insists that if they just ration their snacks, they can survive a whole week. He tells them to just camp out for rescue, acting like it is the most brain-dead obvious strat to stay alive. The boy instantly claps back, asking how the teacher cannot see. This plan is complete garbage. Wayama scolds him for the attitude, but the kid pushes back hard, asking where is actually safe and if the guy even looked at those monsters. Right as he says, nowhere is safe, and watch this awful timing, this nasty blue slime stuff starts dripping straight from the ceiling, splashing onto Tony. Tony starts shrieking for his life while the monster completely swallows him whole, absolutely traumatizing everyone watching. Without missing a beat, Kurigane rushes the thing with his steel pipe, screaming that normal logic is totally dead in this messed up world. There is no safe zone anymore. Smashing his weapon right into the slime, he yells that just camping here will only get them all wiped out. The rest of the class freaks out over what this thing even is while he keeps swinging. A completely panicked Tony just keeps begging for backup. Rakuto yells that he has a clutch idea, telling him to hang tough while ripping down a giant blanket. He calls out to Nishi, who instantly nods back. The crew notices the slime melts straight through skin, but somehow it does absolutely nothing to the synthetic clothes. Working together perfectly, they count to 3 and chuck the huge blanket right over the top of the monster. The other guy rips Tony completely out of its grip. A totally shook Kujo asks if they actually managed to peel that thing off him. Hype guy stops swinging, realizing his absolute worst fear just came true right in front of him. The monster took literally 0 damage. He suddenly remembers that in literally every role-playing game, slimes tank physical hits and only take magic damage. That gives him the sick idea to ignite it, but Tuya has no way to start a fire. Out of nowhere, Sakura pulls up with some lighter fluid, drowning the slime in it and tossing a match, praying for a huge hit. A massive explosion blasts out. She watches the monster completely vaporize. Rakuto calls out that fire is definitely its weak point, thanking her for the ultimate save. He quickly checks on Tony, but Nishi breaks the awful news they were just too late. Down on his knees, Takeda is absolutely bawling his best friend's name. A totally clueless sensei wanders over, wondering what just happened. Our main guy asks if the teacher finally gets how insanely screwed they are. He points out that if they lagged at all, everyone would be dead just like Tony. He angrily demands to know if they are really just going to camp here for a rescue squad that might never show up. The broken teacher just flops onto the floor, crying that he does not get it anymore, finally telling the class to just do whatever. Dipping out of the school, Tuya, Kurigane, Kujo, and Takabana totally wipe the floor with every monster they run into. The foursome decides to speedrun this before any more random mobs spawn. They track down Wayama's ride and toss the keys over to Kotone. She spots right away that it is an automatic. Nishi asks if she actually knows how to drive the thing. She says yeah, even though she is way more used to driving a stick shift. The brown-haired dude laughs in pure relief, totally hyping her up. Killing the vibe, Sakura asks if they seriously need her to tag along. The archer fires back that obviously she has to go. She's literally the only one with the tech skills to repair the phone. Sweating bullets and giving this super awkward laugh, she finally agrees. Hopping into the vehicle, the blonde sighs heavily internally, mourning her incredibly short lifespan. Meanwhile, Tuya keeps wondering what kind of crazy loot she packed. Then Stego crashes the party, announcing he is coming too, claiming it is his ultimate duty to guard Takabana. The archer warns him not to throw the run, but the guy claps back that there is zero need to stress, he is not a total noob. Once inside the whip, Rakuto adds that just like everyone else, he seriously doesn't want to die, he'll do absolutely whatever it takes to stay breathing. Nishi catches Shinjiro side-eyeing his girlfriend and Rakuto with pure jealousy, totally hoping the guy doesn't pull a crazy stunt. Sitting up front, Kotone asks if the squad is ready to roll and fires up the engine. Nishi gives a big thumbs up, telling her they are literally depending on her. Sakura acts perfectly fine, though deep down she really wishes she could stay behind. Rakuto confirms the vibe is set, and they finally hit the road out of there. Back at the school, the leftover students watch them dip. One dude speaks up saying they better hurry and start burning the rooftop bodies just like Rakuto suggested. Sensei Ueyama smashes his weird sword right into the ground, completely raging. He snaps at the girl to instantly shut up. Furious, he screams that he is completely done hearing about Rakuto. The teacher claims he can handle those bodies later, basically flexing that he is the absolute boss here. He ends his little tantrum by ordering everybody to just follow his rules. Meanwhile, out in the city, the squad cruises through streets heavily infested with monsters. These ugly freaks attack instantly after hearing that loud engine roar. Totally panicking, Kotone simply runs over one of the beasts. Rakuto quickly praises and comforts her. Poking out the sunroof, Nishi claims taking a car was a goated move. Those tiny little monsters literally cannot even reach them up there. But his hype face drops instantly. Spotting an absolutely massive creature ahead, he desperately yells at the driver to change their route right now. Clutching the map, Sakura tells Kotone to swing a U-turn to the last four-way intersection and bust a hard right. Chilling in the passenger seat, Rakuto throws out some serious hype and encouragement. He says everyone is counting on her, making her boyfriend insanely salty. But honestly, look at this. Up top, our bow guy spots huge flying beasts and gnarly wolf monsters, literally eating people alive down below. He yells out loud that the whole world has practically ended. Rakuto asks if anybody else is alive out there, but Nishi confirms absolutely zero survivors. Katani guesses normal people are just hiding indoors to touch grass later. She figures their squad is actually totally unhinged for just driving around outside. Suddenly, Shinjiro screams at them to stop the car. His girlfriend hits the brakes asking what is up while Nishi wonders if he saw something. Pointing straight ahead, Shinjiro says there is a convenience store about 50 meters out where they can definitely loot some snacks. He suggests they go check the spot right now, and Sakura totally agrees. From shotgun, Rakuto points out they should easily find food at their actual destination, but Shinjiro instantly snaps back that nobody asked for his opinion. Shinjiro asks if our main guy thinks it is too dangerous. Rakuto fires back, asking if his own valid opinion just does not matter anymore. The super salty guy in the back claps back hard. Just because Rakuto caught some monster bodies doesn't mean he gets to act like the main character now. Nishi jumps into the beef defending Rakuto for just sharing his completely honest thoughts. Sakura chimes in too, begging everyone to just stay chill. Otone also roasts her boyfriend, leaving him totally grumbling. Meanwhile, our archer thinks things over. There is honestly zero guarantee they find any grub at their destination, especially if the whole place is mobbed by freaks. His deep thoughts get cut off when Rakuto points out an obvious fact. There is literally no perfect answer in this messed up situation. He goes on admitting he isn't even sure if bailing on the school was smart, but since they fully committed to this run, he plans to go all out. He finishes up by trusting his friend's solid judgment, saying he won't be salty no matter how this wild play turns out. Stepping up, Nishi declares that real food is mandatory. They need to secure the bag whenever possible, and he asks if the squad agrees. 5 minutes later, they pull up to some spot called Honolulu Coffee. They ask Shinjiro if this is the drop zone, and he totally confirms it. Sakura begs them to stay safe while Nishi promises they will bounce instantly if the vibes get weird. Walking inside, the crew finds completely empty shelves, but Rakuto actually notices one major win. Get this, there are basically 0 scary monsters inside. Our bow hero figures the lack of snacks means other human survivors or random beasts already totally cleared this joint out. Then Rakuto spots some untouched canned food sitting there. The squad decides to speedrun looting as many clutch items as they can physically carry. 15 minutes later, they bag up a sick amount of supplies, looking incredibly hyped with their massive loot haul. Just then, Shinjiro hears a weird noise behind a door. They rip it open, asking who is there, only to find a basic cardboard box stuffed with bread. The boys just stare at the box, heavily confused but completely intrigued. Shinju steps up and confirms it is actual bread, getting totally hyped about the crazy find. Rakuto tells him to hold up. The annoyed dude snaps back, asking what his deal is, since he literally found the loot himself. Our steel pipe-wielding hero shuts that down, saying the whole vibe feels super sus. He points out the literal blood splattered all around the box. Like, obviously something completely messed up went down right here. Still mad, salty, the guy demands to know what could have even happened. Rakuto admits he has 0 clue, but he points at some creepy writing on the floor, saying his gut is screaming danger. He warns the dude to back away from that box right now. The guy in the gray vest completely loses it. He mocks Rakuto, accusing him of gatekeeping the loot just so he can sneak back later, grab it all, and steal the glory. Nishi calls him out on that absolute trash take. Gripping the crate with both hands, the dude yells that he found it first and this stash belongs to him alone. Watch this completely wild moment. Out of nowhere, a massive red eye spawns and stares Seigu down. He completely tweaks out, drops the box, and screams. Out in the car, the girls hear the shrieking and start panicking over what went wrong. Sakura immediately tells Kato to duck and cover. Giant lizard monsters suddenly pull up, growling and carrying spears straight up decorated with severed heads. Terrified, the girls huddle up tight inside the ride. Back inside the store, a one-eyed 9-tentacle freak goes full aggro on the boys. Rakuto rushes it and lands a clean, heavy hit with his pipe. Meanwhile, the vest guy just stands there looking annoyed. This thing straight up looks like a mob from a video game. Then Nishi yells out, warning him that things are getting chaotic outside. The hidden guys spy on those crazy creatures just standing around. Kurigane spots them as lizard men looking for something. His buddy points out they are massively outnumbered, making this a totally scuffed situation. Since they somehow have not been spotted yet, the two decide to camp out and let the monsters walk away. Knowing a 5-on-2 fight is guaranteed death, Toyo starts stressing out over the girls being safe. One lizard man walks right up to the car and smashes the window in with a spear. Kotoni shrieks. The guys freeze up, totally lost on how to save the girls now that their cover is blown, but they decide to rush in together. Sago is straight up too terrified to move, so the guys just leave him behind. Being dragged out of the car, Kujo tries reasoning with the beast, screaming that she tastes absolutely awful. Outside, the girls think it is officially game over. But out of nowhere, one of the ugly monsters gets completely wrecked. Rakuto slides in with his steel pipe, going absolute goblin mode on them. He yells at Tachibana to grab Sakura, telling her to ditch him and run with Nishi if things go south. Boxed in by 3 lizard men, Rakuto is stuck. Then a random arrow snipes one of the beasts right in the head. Subiya stays hidden knowing he loses his entire stealth advantage the second he gets exposed. A 1-on-3 brawl is basically impossible, just like his buddy warned. Our hero wonders if he is cooked, but keeps swinging with everything he has. Some random kid pops up on the store roof straight up pelting a monster with rocks and totally catching Rakuto off guard. He keeps eating rocks with maximum effort while Nishi keeps letting arrows fly. Then a platinum-haired guy shows up dropping another creature flat with brass knuckles. Kurogen has no clue who these goated new allies are, but he uses the distraction to finish off the last lizards. With the mob wiped out, Rakuto thanks the random guy for the save. The girls are hyped to see other humans and rush right over. Subiya instantly clocks their outfits, realizing these guys are from their own high school. Knowing this zone is still super hot, he tells everyone to bail immediately. The green-eyed dude casually suggests they tag along to crash at their hideout. He looks to the older boy calling him senpai who pulls a face like he is seriously not down with the idea. Sweating bullets, Nishi admits he completely thought they were getting wiped out right there. Rakuto says if you refuse to fold crazy, luck sometimes saves the day. Tachibana then yells for everyone to pile into the ride. The rock-throwing kid is totally shocked that she actually knows how to drive. 10 minutes down the road, the strangers finally drop their names. The red-haired guy introduces himself as Eizu Tamada and calls his super serious buddy Yamaka Takashi-senpai. He then points out the window to their so-called secret base, a massive hotel. Honestly, you cannot blame them here. Stepping out the squad is utterly stunned, wondering if this sick setup is actually real. Aiza Tamada explains this spot is actually a goated hideout. Less people around means way fewer phones for those freaky monsters to pop out of. Noticing Subiya reacting, the boy steps right up. He makes it crystal clear that he and his bro are totally cool with each other. The bow hero replies that he never even thought that. Then he suggests they swap some intel. An annoyed Sage just tells them to do whatever. The two new guys are looking pretty lost and totally weirded out by his salty vibe. Nishi tells them to ignore him, he is just super stressed. Tauda then says there is honestly not much to spill. He was just walking home from school when he got jumped using his crazy speed to outrun the mobs. But he ended up totally boxed in. Right at that second, Yamaoka swooped in and literally saved his life. The boy hypes up his buddy as an absolute beast, giving him credit for finding the hotel. He flat out admits he would be totally dead without him. That is exactly when the arrow hero suddenly realizes he has heard of this platinum-haired dude before. Searching his brain, he perfectly remembers the name Takashi. Dude was a hardcore menace. He basically made Takeda and his entire gang look like complete jokes. His rap sheet was insane, crazy assaults, dealing Yakuza ties, and literally murder. Zoning out, he realizes those toxic rumors have to be fake, especially seeing how tight Takashi is with the green-eyed kid. Jumping back into the chat, the green-eyed boy explains that those monsters were literally everywhere. He says they only went out on a food run, which is exactly how they bumped into the squad at the store. Rakuto then asks if they were the ones who dropped that warning sign by the cardboard box. They swear they have zero clue what he is talking about. Feeling super awkward, the steel pipe hero just tells him to drop it. Tauda says that is basically all they know, asking if Nishi has any extra tea. Heading inside the hotel, the guy recaps the whole insane story from day one. The green-eyed boy is hyped to hear people are still safe at school. Getting his hopes up, he asks if fixing Kurogani's phone means they can finally call for backup. But a majorly bummed Tuya admits the odds are trash. Cutting right through the chatter, Rakujo gets straight to business. He asks what the two new guys are planning to do now, making it clear there is zero pressure to tag along. Sakura sighs hard, pointing out that she was totally forced to come along on this trip. The guys are looking totally confused. But watch this. Yamaoka drops a bombshell and says he is joining them, completely shocking his bro Tauda. He promises he will not drag the team down. Instead, he will literally be their human meat shield. Nishi replies that having him on the squad would be clutch. Takashi then asks his bro what his move is totally fine if he just hits the school. The kid fires back if Takashi is in, he is totally in too. He adds he is a man and really needs to pull his weight. A super hyped Kurogani tells the arrow hero stopping at that store was a massive W and his bro totally agrees. Totally killing the vibe, Yamaoka points out their plan is actually ridiculously reckless. He explains that since a ton of people live around here, the monster spawn rate is going to be completely insane. So they desperately need a rock-solid entry plan to map out the safe zones. Being careful is mandatory right now. He keeps going, laying down the law. Protecting Kujo is their absolute #1 priority. She is totally shook by that. The hero duo agrees they were rushing things and definitely do not want to throw the mission. The platinum-haired dude makes it clear he is not the one drawing up the big brain strat. He is basically just a frontline grunt and they can use him however they want. They finally kick off a hardcore brainstorming session to lock in the plan while Sato just awkwardly sits in the corner. Meeting over the squad hits the car and starts making runs. They lock in on mapping a safe route, completely flexing on every obstacle by working as a team. A few days later, they hit their final destination. Rakuto casually drops that if they had rushed it, they would absolutely be monster snacks by now. The girls are so hyped to finally be there. Sakura sighs, saying it feels like it has literally been centuries since she last visited. Yamaoka spots his buddy Aiza shaking out of his mind. The guy tries playing it off as just pre-battle warrior hype. Everyone pushes forward while Sato just trails behind. Kurogane tells the squad to stay locked in. Nishi adds that from here on out they are winging it against whatever pops up. Meanwhile, back at the school, flying freaks absolutely own the skies. One student reveals the last few survivors have literally been surviving on crusts of bread. Sitting right there on the floor, some kid has his head in his hands going through an absolute mental breakdown. Two girls sit around stressing over how long this nightmare will last. One is super worried about Sakura since her squad went totally ghost after leaving. Starving Enomoto walks up to the teacher. This guy is literally hogging a whole loaf of bread. Enomoto begs him to share just a tiny bit because everybody else is dead starving. Big mad, the sensei slams his weapon down. He tells her to back off. He jumps up yelling that they have zero clue how high-tier food is right now. He tells her to zip it and just obey. Takeda is super tight, whispering to his bro that Oyama is stuffing his face while they literally starve. Enomoto keeps pushing. She warns him that at this rate they will drop before the others get back. The dude just snaps back that the squad is probably monster food by now. Freaking out, Enomoto calls him out for saying something so totally messed up. She reminds him the crew only touched grass to help everyone. The teacher gives a creepy look, grabbing her waist. He whispers that if she does him a solid, he might hook her up. Panicking, she screams at him to stop. He just laughs it off as a joke while the bullies watch the whole messed up scene. Check this out. While the school survivors completely lose their minds, weird creatures are straight up snacking on bodies up on the roof. Meanwhile, Rakuto and his squad are moving through a zone that actually looks totally chill. The steel pipe hero asks what the deal is here. Nishi guesses there has got to be a massive creature nearby. He explains that whenever a seriously goated monster claims a zone, the smaller mobs completely vanish. It is exactly like a video game boss room. Super confused, the arrow hero wonders why these monsters are straight out of a game. He jokes that at least naming them is easy mode. Kurogane totally agrees with his bro. He says someone definitely knows the lore here, adding there must be a hidden system running things. Yamaoka pulls them back to reality. Main objective takes absolute priority. A bit later, the squad hits a floor totally stacked with tech tools and chemicals. Kuja sprints at the shelves looking crazy hyped. She yells she is moving in, making Tachibana bust out laughing. Splitting up the work, Rakuto tells Eizu and Kadoni to help the tech nerd out. Both girls are instantly down. Sekyu and Nishi get guard duty for the girls, while the pipe hero and the platinum-haired dude patrol the perimeter. Flexing her massive brain, Akakura starts plotting exactly how to mod this sick gear. Totally lost, her friend asks what she is actually doing. She says she is swapping out a busted phone processor for a fresh part she just scored. Sniffing the solder like a weirdo, she gets super hyped and asks Tachibana if she feels it. Eizu just looks massively embarrassed. On high alert, the guys keep watch. Kurogane patrols the dead quiet zone, getting major bad vibes. Right then, he spots a note on a shelf, basically saying all intruders are going to get completely wiped out. This grabs his attention fast. It is the exact same handwriting from that warning back on the first store floor. But wait for it, heavy footsteps. This absolute unit of a stone monster stomps up, rocking a glowing light right on its neck. It robotically announces a heat source detection. The hero quickly realizes this is a golem. Aggroing instantly, the rock dude roars about eliminating intruders. It charges straight at Rakuto, who swings his pipe to block the hit. But the golem actually dodges, totally shocking him with its insane speed. Swinging again, Rakuto lands a clean hit. But he quickly realizes raw physical damage is doing absolutely zero against this tank. Right before Kurogane gets absolutely leveled, Takashi drops in and feeds the stone boss a massive punch. The golem falls but instantly stands back up, growling. Frustrated, Yamaoka figures hitting its core is the only win condition. Rakuto says they should cautiously hunt for a weak spot. Stepping up the brass knuckle, Hiro tells his bro to follow his lead, and Rakuto is totally down. An insane melee breaks out. The platinum-haired guy dodges perfectly, hitting the boss with heavy combo punches. Watching this unfold, Rakuto is actually mind-blown by his power, wondering if this dude's secretly trained in boxing. He realizes even pro fighters do not have this kind of raw damage output. But then panic sets in, the boss is totally tanking the hits. The golem lands a brutal counter on the brass knuckle hero's head, drawing first blood. This makes his buddy realize their situation is straight up cooked, losing their upper hand fast. Suddenly, having a brain blast, Kurogane finally decodes that note he found earlier and screams for Takeshi to fall back. Going all out, the kid completely decks the stone monster right in the dome with his steel pipe. The golem shatters into tiny pieces, leaving Yamaoka totally baffled about what just went down. The rest of the squad comes sprinting over asking what the heck is going on and if the boys survived. Nishi asks what happened to that rubble pile and his buddy casually drops that it was a golem. Absolutely shook the bow, Hiro asks if Rakuto actually soloed the thing. He confirms he totally did, remembering some goated video game where the boss's weak spot was literally its head. An incredibly hyped Tuya points out that their adventure is getting totally sick. Seiju tries to act totally unimpressed, asking if it was just some low-level mob, but Takeshi completely shuts him down. He hypes up the steel pipe hero instead, completely blown away by the kid's insane kinetic vision to read movements and spot the letters on the golem's head. He wraps up by calling the guy a totally reliable carry, and his buddy hits him with a solid thanks. The green-eyed guy pops up to praise his friend too, basically begging Yamaoka to trust him just as much. Shinjiro looks incredibly salty about this. The bow hero then chimes in, since the enemy is wrecked, everyone should just get back to grinding. Catching Kuragane looking deep in thought, he asks what's bugging him. His buddy points out that the monster felt way too squishy to be the actual area boss. But wait for it, a massive purple sphere suddenly barrels toward the squad at warp speed. Sensing danger, Sakura asks if that rumbling sound is getting closer. The giant ball suddenly jumps the escalator, catching the entire group completely slipping. Nishi guesses it's just another boulder, but the blonde girl is super confused, pointing out that makes zero sense since they are literally inside a mall. Right before Tachibana gets flattened, the steel pipe hero shoves her to safety. The sphere then slowly cracks open, revealing a huge glowing purple eye. Standing up, it morphs into an absolute unit of a humanoid, rocking that creepy eye right in its chest. Sweating bullets, Rakuto stammers to his bow-wielding buddy that this guy is definitely the boss and they are in massive trouble. Spitting the exact same voice lines as the smaller golem, the purple beast announces it needs to completely wipe out the intruders. Throwing a massive punch to crush the squad, it whiffs and smashes the floor instead, leaving an insane crater. Because this absolute unit is so tall, the steel pipe hero points out that hitting the text on its head is going to be nearly impossible. Tuya steps right up and screams at his buddy to let him handle this. Letting his arrows fly, he tries to perfectly snipe the engraved letter on the stone. 0 damage. The guy realizes he cannot even scratch this boss, while a terrified Kuju starts crying that this game is completely rigged. Things get super sketchy as the golem charges up a massive purple energy beam. The blonde girl spots the attack, and the bow hero screams for everyone to dodge. Totally panicking, Kuragane yells for everyone to run. They all desperately scramble for their lives, right as the boss blasts its overpowered ultimate straight toward the steel pipe hero. A massive blazing crater gets vaporized right into the floor where that beam hits. Luckily, 4 of them manage to dive behind a wall, absolutely terrified and gasping for air, while Rakuto stands completely paralyzed by the boss's insane damage output. Tachibana asks if Nishi is alright, but her friend holding him reveals he took massive damage and is super messed up. The girl silently panics about their other friends. Even though he is freaking out, Rakuto says they just need to focus on what they can actually pull off right now. The kid pitches a plan to fall back to the underground parking lot, hoping they can group up with the others there if they survived. Seiju, however, hates that idea. Super tilted and terrified, he starts screaming that making a run for the stairs without grabbing aggro is literally impossible. Kuragane totally backs him up though, saying they'd have to ditch their heavily injured buddy to make it, which he absolutely refuses to do. The boss keeps aggressively stomping closer. Now check this out, completely confused. The squad watches the steel pipe hero finally step up. Ditching his cover, he decides to basically 1v1 the monster. Pulling all the aggro, he signals the squad to rush the stairs. Sprinting for his life, he analyzes the boss's attack patterns, realizing this thing totally targets heat and aggression. So for the team to safely reach the stairs, they absolutely have to chuck that flare he handed off to them earlier. He figures if the flare distracts the golem for even a split second, he can totally dodge out of there. But he knows if the boss catches them lacking their entire escape run is completely chalked. This crazy clutch play is literally the only way the whole squad gets out without wiping. Kotone yells out that she's good to go, so Rakuto gives the green light to chuck that flare. But right as she winds up, her toxic boyfriend completely fumbles it. The flare bounces down the stairs, totally wrecking their strategy. Freaking out, Kotone demands to know what his problem is. Seiju just makes excuses, claiming the monster was about to aggro them anyway. The golem lands a massive direct hit on Rakuto. He slams against a wall, shouting out in pure agony. Kotone screams his name in pure panic. Rakuto strictly orders her to stay put, tells her to forget about him, ditch this place, and go help Nishi instead. He glares at Seiju, ordering the guy to actually protect his girlfriend for once. Seiju just mumbles some salty comeback. That coward actually suggests they just dip out, saying Rakuto is already a goner. Oh, that absolutely sets Kotone off. She straight up clocks her boyfriend right in the jaw. He hits the floor stunned while she sprints over to help our steel pipe hero. Breathing heavy, Rakuto stares down the charging golem. Not gonna lie, this seriously looks like absolute game over for him. Feeling completely alone, he thinks about how hard he grinded since everything went sideways. Yet here he is feeling totally useless. A flash of his late brother crosses his mind. Maybe his bro was right about him being a total failure after all. Out of nowhere, Kotone slides in clutch. She grabs him fast, pulling him right out of the energy beam's destructive path. Totally dazed, Rakuto barely processes the moment as she tackles him, both of them hitting the concrete hard. He scolds her, immediately calling that stunt dangerously reckless. She grabs his collar and yells right back, asking how he could just give up like that. She fiercely insists he is way better than a quitter. Completely lost, he asks how she could possibly know that. That triggers a childhood flashback. Rakuto remembers fighting off a bunch of bullies to save her, never backing down no matter the odds. Gripping his trusty steel pipe, he gets back on his feet. The realization hits him hard. Against all odds, they are both still breathing. Suddenly, an arrow snipes the monster. It turns to see the whole squad reunited with Nishi looking fully healed. Rakuto and Kotone are hyped to see them. Aizu mentions how stressed he was leaving them below, visibly relieved they survived. Takshi apologizes for the lag. Just like that, the crew shifts into full boss fight mode. Kotone and Rakuto stand their ground. He swings his weapon at the beast with everything he has and lands a clean hit. Nishi and another guy watch the intense clash. The sword user debates, falling back, completely torn on what his next move should be. A massive banging sound suddenly echoes, grabbing everyone's attention. Something heavy is smashing against that door. It hits them. The mini golems are swarming up from downstairs. The noise gets deafening. Sakura looks terrified, calling this an absolute nightmare. Nishi asks Rakuto for a play, stressing that they are totally cooked if this keeps up. Our boy quickly tells the archer to just spam his arrows. He guarantees that focusing fire on one spot will eventually break through. Firing away, Nishi calls the beast a brainless tank, swearing its HP is about to hit 0. Rakuto declares he has to win this simply because he refuses to die today. The other students watch in sheer panic. But that one word, alive, suddenly sparks an idea for Sakura. Stuttering nervously, she flags down Rakuto and Nishi. She claims she has a crazy strategy, but she needs a timer to cook. Sakura admits it sounds totally unhinged, but she actually knows a way to solo this monster. Rakuto hypes her up instantly, telling her he trusts her totally and will buy all the time she needs. Tearing up, she nods, knowing he understands exactly what she has to do. Hearing someone actually believe in her makes her super emotional. Rakuto doubles down, saying a girl like her would never cap about something this serious. Our main guy waves Nishi over, and the archer quickly slides into position. Acting super skeptical, a blonde student asks if Sakura can actually pull off this insane idea. She confidently says yes. With Rakuto putting his faith in her, failing is literally not an option anymore. Yamaoka barks orders for the guys to squad up, telling Aizu to run support for the girls. Frustrated, the massive monster looms over the squad, ready to wipe them out. Meanwhile, Sakura crouches down rapidly, mixing up her chemical potions. Kotone checks on her friend, noticing Sakura shaking like crazy. The young alchemist just tells her to hush and let her focus. The monster launches a lightning-fast swipe at Rakuto, but he flawlessly dodges it. Nishi shouts for Sakura to hurry up. Sakura yells that she's almost done. She starts rambling about the crazy chemical reaction, totally second-guessing if this will actually work. Then Rakuto's solid words of trust flash through her mind. Her hands fly as she drops the final ingredient. Boom, the potion is perfect. She instantly warns Kotone to never touch this stuff because it is insanely toxic. She explains the final step: just yeet this deadly mixture straight at the monster's head and they secure the total victory. Tachibana asks how they are even supposed to snipe this beast right in the dome, sending Kujo into absolute panic mode. The little girl calls herself a total clown. She literally forgot to plan that part out. But Aizu snatches up the goods. He sprints with it, asking if he just needs to yeet this thing straight at the monster's head. He flexes that he is on the baseball team and totally has the arm for this. Sakura tells him to chill out with that liquid, giving the squad major anxiety. The massive enemy rushes them fast. Nishi gets super tilted watching this ugly thing close in. Out of nowhere, a blast goes off right on the beast's face. The sword kid jumps, wondering if that was their whole strategy. Aizu finally pulls up, sprinting with the chemicals and saying my bad for the holdup. He calls it a special delivery straight from Kujo. In one clean motion, he completely yeets that vial at the monster's big head. Kotone asks her bestie what exactly went into that crazy mixture. Kujo plays it off as basic science. Then she admits mixing nitrate, sulfuric acid, and glycerin to cook up straight nitroglycerin. Before she even finishes talking, a huge explosion pops off. The force sends everyone totally flying. Aizu watches, his eyes completely lit up at the sick damage. The smoke clears, but that monster is still standing there tanking it. Baseball Boy asks Kujo about that massive boom. She breaks down the nitroglycerin stats, basically calling her spicy brew a homemade dynamite. Sweating bullets, the rest of the crew just stare terrified. They flame her, yelling that she totally should have explained that goaded substance first. Somebody screams for Sakura. Now check out this damage. The guys scope the blast zone and Rakuto realizes the area is absolutely crispy. Nishi claims they finally clapped the monster, but he points out that Kujo was acting kind of unhinged back there with the explosives. She promises to try playing it safe from now on. The main character walks over to the door. His archer buddy watches, telling him opening that thing is seriously bad news. But when he opens it up, all those tiny golems are just straight dust. Rakuto realizes he has not heard any banging since that big boom. Nishi wonders if the mobs blew up because the boss got taken out. His friend thinks it sounds dumb, but low-key agrees anyway. The MC walks up to Sakura and asks if she actually scored those phone parts. She tells him she only grabbed the bare minimum loot. He says thanks, claiming she literally saved everyone, which gets the girl super up in her feelings. The stressed archer kid says they really need to bounce. The squad agrees to dip out of there as fast as humanly possible. Big yikes, get ready for this cringe. Walking inside, Rakuto spots Seiju trying to steal a kiss, but Kotone absolutely slaps him away. The ex tries to backtrack, saying he had no choice. She is completely enraged right now. She basically says she does not care about his excuses and tells him to go touch grass. Nishi rolls up asking what the drama is about. A super depressed Seiju walks out past his friends in total shock over getting rejected. He lets out a scream and dashes right upstairs. Sensing bad vibes, the archer kid yells at him to stop. There's definitely still danger lurking in this creepy building. Seiju totally ignores him and keeps running, obsessing over Kuragain. Ready to lose his mind, the guy barges straight into an empty room. He paces around getting super toxic, thinking Kotone belongs to him alone. In his head, Rakuto is the one ruining his life. Wishing Rakuto would just drop dead, he kicks a bunch of random boxes out of pure rage. Pushing the trash aside, Seiju finds a heavy coffin with a sword jammed right into it. A sticky note warns that the thing is fully sealed and off limits. The dude is confused why this edgy stuff is chilling in storage. He checks out the whole setup, coffin, blade, and note. Acting like an absolute idiot, he yanks the silver blade right out. A loud sound starts echoing from inside the box. He stands there, shook, as a skull pops out, flashing red lightning from its eyes. Freaking out, he tries to figure out what is happening before a bone hand lunges at him. Meanwhile, Nishi is out looking around and shouting for Seiju. He complains about warning him not to go solo. Suddenly, someone walks up, totally catching their attention. The boys turn and realize it is exactly who they were looking for. They ask if he was just hiding there this whole time. Super annoyed, the archer kid flames him hard. He tells Katane's ex he should probably answer when people are literally screaming his name. After roasting him, the kid says they should all just head back now. They already bagged the loot they came for anyway. Nishi finds it completely wild that the kid is vibing this hard right now. The white-haired dude walking with them straight up questions his own sanity. He had not sensed the boy creeping up behind them at all. Back at their base, Sakura actually smiles, mentioning the place is already starting to feel like home. Cut to another room where someone is absolutely hyping up a massive win. It is Kujo, and the whole squad is hyped, seeing she actually got the cell phone to work. After basically speedrunning some tech surgery on a phone and PC, she's finally online. The green-eyed kid calls her an absolute legend for pulling it off. Rakuto immediately asks her to scrape the web for any nearby survivors or SOS signals. She scrolls through social media, but it is a total ghost town, zero updates since the monsters dropped. But then she spots something crazy. Some random person out in Amashima posted a cry for help a few days ago, meaning people there might actually be alive. The main character does the math. Yeah, Mishima is pretty far, but a road trip is not totally impossible. Kotone sighs, calling this a massive win after days of absolute nightmare fuel. Hanging out nearby, Seiju eavesdrops on the whole chat. Hearing this plan makes him seriously uneasy, dark shadows creeping around him. Nishi decides that tomorrow morning they are going to tell the whole school about this crazy plan to hit Amashima and look for more people. But wait, right then, some seriously nasty noises start echoing out from one of the school labs. A woman is pinned down as Wayama goes full psycho, only their messed up shadows are visible. She begs for her life, but the dude just holds up a knife telling her to stop fighting because nothing good is coming from this anyway. Standing over her, this completely unhinged man smiles at the terrifying scene, literally calling it his own personal heaven on earth. Sick freak. Time for a quick flashback. A pack of those nasty bird monsters swoops down on the school roof, absolutely gorging themselves on the leftover corpses up there. Inside, a commotion breaks out. Two guys step right up to Wayama, aggressively asking if he's seriously trying to starve them. The rest of the class watches the tension spike, totally frozen in panic. One kid snaps, screaming at him to cough up the food, but Wayama swears they are out. They call cap on that, accusing the teacher of hoarding supplies for himself. Gripping a baseball bat, Takedo straight up threatens the teacher, saying things are about to get real ugly real fast. Wayama tells them to drop it and touch grass, declaring he will absolutely not tolerate this kind of blatant disrespect in his classroom. He is the teacher, his word is absolute law, and these kids need to sit down and shut up. One furious kid just snaps and socks the older man right in the face. Wayama hits the floor hard while the argument over food keeps raging. Wayama stays completely silent, which the angry kid yells is exactly what he hates about him. Totally losing his mind, the boy curses him out and swings again. But watch closely, blood suddenly spatters across the room. The teacher had just shoved a kitchen knife right into his gut. Screaming in absolute agony, the kid drops, totally paralyzed by the shock. Takedo starts shaking like a leaf as the bleeding man turns his deadly gaze. Zero hesitation, the teacher steps right up to his next target. Muttering that trash like them desperately needs a harsh lesson in discipline, he swings at the blonde kid. Even more blood splatters the walls. Snapping back to the present, Wham is casually carrying the poor girl out over his shoulder. He walks her into a room packed with students, some barely alive, others totally dead, and announces he is back. He actually laughs, asking why they are all huddled in the corner. Tossing the girl onto the floor like a rag doll, he tells her welcome home in the creepiest way. Gripping that bloody knife, he compliments the crying girl's stunning looks. Then he locks eyes with a student named Kasahara, calmly telling her she is up next. Panicking, Kasahara tries to throw her friend Riko under the bus to save herself. Riko looks completely disgusted that her bestie would sell her out. Kasahara barks back that Riko is just a total kiss-up anyway. Annoyed, Wayama slams his knife into the floor. He calls out to both girls, praising them for being such good little pets and listening to him. The terrified pair just nods. Hayashi inches forward, trembling violently. When Wayama asks what his problem is, he panics. Wayama tells the kid not to try anything stupid, pointing straight at the dead bodies. Hayashi swears he was not plotting anything, earning a creepy pat on the head. Then, moving insanely fast, the psycho snatches Kasahara and completely yanks Kasamoto forward as well. The girls scream out for help, begging anyone to save their lives. The brunette girl cries out, questioning what kind of messed up reality they are living in now. Wayama just silently drags her into the dark. Whole way there, she is cursing this dude out. He slaps her, tells her to call him sensei. Yanking the poor girl by her hair, the unhinged teacher claims she desperately needs some extra education. He completely mocks her earlier question. Dude calls this apocalypse a paradise while she screams it is pure hell. She keeps screaming her lungs out, yelling that this trash world really needs to just end already. Getting dragged across the floor, she wonders how she never saw this coming. Wayama hits his destination and completely freezes right in front of her. Something catches his eye. He peeks out the window and spots his own car pulling up, knowing exactly what that means. Rakuto's squad just made it back to school. A girl watching from inside spots Kurigane and the crew celebrating. They think they are totally safe from the teacher's sick threats now. Wayama goes straight ghost white. He cannot believe these guys actually survived out there, and he is totally panicking. Then he just snaps. He decides to wipe the whole crew out, thinking his little creepy kingdom does not need Rakuto anyway. Outside, the group is yelling up at the school. They want everyone to know they are back and need that front door opened. But nobody answers, and Nishi starts catching bad vibes. They pound on the doors while the creep secretly watches from above. Wayama heads back into the room. The other captured students are still totally shook that the squad actually survived. One student quietly whispers Kurigane's name in pure relief. Wayama realizes the squad cannot find out he just murdered students or he is absolutely cooked. Running the math in his head, the teacher figures they do not know anything yet. Plus, out of that entire crew, only Nishi and Kurigane are actually built different. He decides if he can pack up those two bros, Kuju and Tachibana are getting dragged straight into his Delulu harem. Going full villain mode, he steps toward the girls. He threatens them keep quiet and do not try anything sketchy if you want to live. Back outside, the squad is just standing there. Nishi says it is way too quiet, catching major red flags right away. He asks Rakuto what the game plan is. Our goated main character agrees things are super sus. He tells everyone they need to break in, basically ramming the car right through the front barrier. Nishi calls that plan absolutely wild and risky, but before they can touch the gas, Wayama swings the door open and greets the students. Everyone is hyped to see him alive. Faking the nice guy routine, the teacher asks how things are looking outside. Completely oblivious to the danger, Nishi reports they actually found Sakura's phone and even picked up some extra survivors. Then our green-eyed boy steps up, joking that it has been a hot minute since they last saw the teacher. Wayama instantly gets stressed. He knows this new kid is going to be a huge headache, bumping his total up to 3 major obstacles. Trying to play it cool, the dude forces a smile, claiming he is thrilled. He is already cooking up a plan to jump Kurigane and Nishi first. Moving right into action, the creep says he needs a private word with the two boys and tells them to follow him. Smelling something super fishy, Nishi suggests the entire squad should definitely tag along. The teacher plays nice but heavily insists on talking to just those two boys first. Nishi finally caves and waves Rakuto over. The duo follows Wayama, telling the squad they will be right back. The green-eyed boy suggests the others should just start hauling all the supplies inside. Pausing for a second, Koton suddenly realizes Seiju is completely missing. She wonders if he wandered into the building by himself. Honestly, this whole setup is terrifying. Meanwhile, Wayama leads the boys deeper inside. Nishi catches a weird vibe and asks if they are going a bit too far. Playing totally dumb, the dude promises it is just around the corner, and they are almost there. All the while, he is scheming if he can just snatch the kid's bow, it is an easy win. They finally hit an empty classroom, totally confused. Nishi tells him to start talking, but Wayama is just messing with a fire extinguisher. Out of nowhere, the psycho blasts the extinguisher right in their faces. The boys are screaming about their eyes while this dude just laughs. With them totally blinded, the teacher takes his shot and rushes the boys with a literal knife. Rakuto instantly blocks it with his bat, and an absolute all-out brawl kicks off. Again smirks, "Nice try, man, but my gut feeling never lies to me." Our goated MC reveals he knew Wayama was trash this whole time. The teacher gets totally confused, demanding to know how he figured it out. He says he spotted fresh blood on the teacher's shirt, and when they last talked, that blood definitely was not there before. Kurigane stares him down. He does not know what went down while they were gone, but he is 100% sure this creep crossed the line. Oyama starts stuttering like crazy, totally spooked. The student grabs the dude by his shirt, telling him karma is absolutely going to humble him one day. Mad annoyed, the teacher tries clapping back and throws a desperate cheap shot. He swings hard, but Rakuto easily blocks it and launches the guy straight across the room. Up on the roof, those weird bird monsters are just chilling. Seiju pulls up and watches the absolute horror show unfolding. He smirks, claiming this is exactly the vibe he wanted. Without missing a beat, he gives the green light to kick things off. Back inside, Tachibana and Sakura rush into a classroom. They find the other girls tied up and immediately start freeing them. Everyone is beyond hyped to finally be loose. Kotone asks if this small group is literally everyone left alive. Seeing her besties looking so wrecked hits Kuju right in the feels. Even though they are free, everyone agrees this whole thing is completely cursed. Tachibana completely breaks down, crying over the whole mess. She hates that everything went completely south right when they finally caught a lucky break. Spotting the bodies on the floor, she calls out how absolutely messed up this is. Meanwhile, the boys dump the newly tied-up teacher on the ground, demanding to know why he would do something so downright evil. Nishi is furious, telling the guy he should have been stepping up and protecting the students instead of being a total snake. Not even scared, Oyama laughs in his face. The dude aggressively mocks him, asking if the kid actually thinks he's getting saved, telling him to go touch grass. He insists the world is totally cooked now. Hope is literally zero, and every single one of them is going to become monster food anyway. That is his whole twisted excuse. He just wanted to act out and have some sick fun before the world ended, knowing zero consequences were coming. With zero shame, he tells the guys they should totally join in and kidnap Tachibana and Kuju too. The girls are visibly disgusted. Nishi tells the creep to shut up and decks him. Stepping in, Rakuto tells his buddy to just drop it. Giving this giant loser any more attention is a massive waste of their energy. He decides they are absolutely not dragging this trash teacher along with them. Catching the end of that, one girl asks what exactly they mean by that. Nishi admits he totally forgot to drop the news, but their actual game plan is saving everyone. Thanks to that phone they clutched up earlier, they already tracked down more living students. The whole room gets incredibly hyped, calling the boys absolute legends. Hearing this major plot twist, Oyama instantly starts panicking. Freaking out, the teacher suddenly starts begging for mercy. He pleads not to be ditched, desperately crying about how sorry he is now. Koton calls out his massive ego, thinking he gets a free pass after acting so evil. Rakuto says they will figure out what to do with him later. Right now, they have way bigger problems to deal with. Nishi totally agrees with the call. Out of nowhere, this crazy blue light flashes outside, catching everyone off guard. And honestly, get ready for this, the guys are visibly shook, completely clueless about what is going down. They cautiously peek outside. Huge blue beams spam the sky while flying freaks and monsters totally swarm the block. These things are rocking straight-up lizard and goat faces. Nishi is freaking out, wondering if these new enemies are literally spawning from those beams. Rakuto confirms it is the exact same crazy glitch from before. Sakura is mad confused since literally nobody else has a smartphone. Our main guy just yells at everyone to gear up. Terrified, Nishi points out the mob size is just multiplying endlessly. Koton nervously asks what her next move should be. Those gross birds snacking on the bodies suddenly smash right through the windows into the school. The entire group goes into full panic mode, throwing up whatever defense they possibly can. Watch closely how he handles this. They yell at the green-eyed kid to speedrun everyone out. But Rakuto refuses to fold today, swinging his bat hard to absolutely clobber a bird. Dozens of those ugly mobs spawn right on the front lawn. Inside, Takeshi and his crew are throwing hands just to carve out an exit path. Some guy asks Azu where the rest went, seeing him solo. The kid apologizes, saying his group got totally split up. In apology, a goblin tries to jump him through the window. Nishi is way faster though, pinning it with an arrow and telling the kid to just survive. One winged freak dives in like it wants the girls, but it completely ignores Tachibana and makes a beeline straight for Sakura. Scared out of her mind, Sakura freezes, but Rakuto steps up and smacks it away. He quickly checks on her and she shyly nods that she is totally fine. Up on the stairs, the girl wonders why that monster literally ignored her on purpose. Sweating bullets, Nishi asks his bro for a game plan since the ground floor is totally swarming. Looking down at the monsters climbing up, he points out their current pace is a straight-up L. If going down is completely blocked, the only way left is up. He yells for the squad to book it up to the roof. The archer asks if they are literally just back to square one. Rushing up the stairs, Kurogane tells the team to stay glued together so they can survive this mess. A solid plan, everyone agrees. Meanwhile, Hayashi sprints from a massive spider screaming that he absolutely refuses to die here. Glancing back, he realizes this might actually be good game, but he is just not ready to log out yet. Out of nowhere, a literal system screen pops up calling him a hero and asking if he accepts the quest, flashing yes or no options. A voice echoes in his head, leaving him confused on how he bagged the hero class. Next up, a notification saying an evil-slaying sword is spawning. Spider lunges. He quickly grabs the newly spawned blade and cleanly slices the beast in half. The girls pull up shortly after spotting him. He actually wonders if this is his goated true power. Sakura hypes him up from behind and the whole crew starts glazing him, leaving the guy totally flustered. Rakuto and Nishi roll in right after joining the massive hype train. Big flex. He thanks everyone, declaring he can finally protect them. But honestly, prepare for a massive reality check. The guy is literally inside the spider's jaws, getting munched while mumbling those exact same hero lines. Down on another floor, one of the girls gets snatched by a monster and desperately screams for her bestie to save her. Not friends. The traitor brutally replies they were never tight, straight up telling her to drop dead. Instant karma hits as another beast spawns right behind the traitor, packing her up before she even notices. Watching this mess, the first girl questions what kind of sick world this has become. Over in the restrooms, the teacher is tied up inside a stall, desperately thinking he needs to survive to build his own personal paradise. Then Inamoto kicks the door open, happily announcing she finally found him. He completely spooks at the sight of her. She roasts him, saying even tied up he made it here, making him as ridiculously hard to squish as a cockroach. She then casually asks if he has any bucket list dreams left, leaving the guy totally confused. The girl vents that her ultimate dream was finding a real bestie, getting hitched, and building a super happy family. Flexing a massive knife, she tells Wayama that she actually wanted to include him in that perfect little dream. But that is cancelled now since he completely ruined her and took it all away. Absolutely terrified, the teacher starts heavily begging to not get packed up. The dude cries for forgiveness, yelling he will take full responsibility just as she completely lunges. She viciously slashes his chest, instantly dropping him to the floor. Flashing a psycho smile, she agrees he is definitely taking responsibility, not just for her, but for the whole entire class. He is left bleeding out alone, completely surrounded by creepy ghost figures, whispering that they are bringing his final game over. Trembling on the tiles, the teacher begs for mercy, but the girl just goes in for another brutal strike. Sobbing, she claims his downfall fully pays the tab for what he did and nothing else even matters now. But she completely misses the massive monster spawning right behind her. Door spotted. Rakuto completely hypes up the entire squad. Nishi asks what the actual game plan is once they get topside, and the boy just casually says they will figure it out when they spawn in. Busting the door open, they find Seiju chilling there, announcing he has been waiting for them. The whole squad is hyped to see him alive, with the archer asking if he is totally okay. He drops a super edgy line about all the actors finally gathering, but clarifies he was specifically waiting on Kurogane. The guy thanks the crew for clutching the rooftop run and successfully escorting Katoni. A totally confused Nishi questions that weird escort comment, asking if bro actually hit his head, but his friend immediately senses the vibes are massively off. Flashing a grin, Seiju jokes they are being super cold. With a literal monster spawning behind him, he boldly claims he has been on their team this whole time. Seeing the beast, Sakura starts absolutely screaming, demanding to know what it is. Rakuto quickly IDs the mob as a straight-up lich. His buddy replies that those things are basic fantasy fodder, totally questioning why it is just chilling with a random student. Total shock. Seiju catches the chatter, calmly replying the beast is literally an ally. And this plot twist hits different. He flexes that renting his body to the lich unlocked insane powers, totally exposing a glitch in their reality, a broken summoning system. Smirking, he adds there is some serious lore they still need to learn. More importantly, he can just casually summon a massive magic circle right into the sky. A wild stream of binary code drops down, spawning multiple monsters onto the roof that completely surround and terrify the whole group. The crew straight up panics, wondering how to survive this. Kurogane instantly realizes this is the exact same cursed glitch that went down earlier. Backed by monsters, Seiju flexes, asking if they finally see his power, bragging that he unlocked the technique to just control these beasts. He explains that while he can only command the low-tier mobs right now, he will definitely be dominating the boss level ones super soon. Basically, as long as he is hanging around, the squad never needs to stress over random monsters again. Locking eyes with Kotone, he softly mentions he probably made her panic, but everything is totally chill now and she seriously never needs to be scared again. He tells her she does not need Kurogane white knighting her anymore. That just creeps her out completely. Flexing his creepy new lich arms, he asks her to ditch reality and stay with him forever. She shuts him down hard. Tachibana asks a simple question: is this sick power really his? She asks if he actually summoned those freaky monsters attacking everyone right now. He totally flexes and admits it. They literally attacked a girl from their own class, she points out, and probably everyone else too. Seiju just shrugs it off. He claims he only needs her. Shaking, she drops the brutal truth. She hates to say it, but he is not human anymore. Straight up crying, she calls him out. Out of every monster they faced, he is absolutely the worst. The rest of the class backs her up. Seiju absolutely loses his mind. He keeps screaming that Kotani's wrong, repeating the word endlessly. Still screaming his lungs out, the guy turns into a literal tornado. The wind hits so hard the students brace for impact. When the dust settles, the lich is in the driver's seat. His head and arms are fully replaced by the monster. It shrieks right at her, raging that she prefers Kurogane. It screams she was supposed to be his before yelling he never needed her anyway. Then it sends the mob in. Rakuto grabs his steel pipe and yells for Kuju and Tachibana to stay back. He blocks a massive hit, but the girl is too busy stressing over him to see the mob creeping up behind her. Sakura shouts a warning. The boy blitzes over to tank the hit. He saves them, but the insane impact completely dents his trusty steel pipe. The beast absolutely launches him backward. Kotone screams his name as he smashes hard into the wall. Nishi yells out in pure panic and the girls sprint right toward him. Getting up close, the vibe instantly drops. Tachibana grabs his face and feels the ultimate cliffhanger: he is not breathing. Kurogane hears his name echoing. Suddenly, he is back in his bedroom, totally tripping out because he was just fighting at the school. Then a sarcastic voice. Why does he think he owns the place? He turns and sees his brother Serato standing in the doorway. The guy smirks, saying it has been way too long. Back in reality, Kotone is losing it. She begs him to wake up, holding him tight and crying while everyone else just stands frozen. Nishi keeps dodging monsters, practically hyperventilating. He asks out loud if this sick nightmare is actually happening. As he spaces out, a beast lunges for him. Takeshi steps up, rocking it with a brutal brass knuckle punch. Takeshi shouts for his bro, but gets nothing but silence back. Keeping his eyes locked on the fight, he tells their leader not to check out yet. No matter how busted things get, they have to fight to the bitter end. That is just who Kurogane is. The whole squad feels that hype. Nishi nods. He is right. Rakuto has always been goated like that. No matter how wild the odds are, he never folds. If Nishi gave up on surviving now, he could never look his bro in the eye again. Fully locked in, he starts firing arrows into the mob again. Tauta backs him up. Serato, totally puppeted by the lich, tells them to give it up. Kurogane is permanently out of the game. He smirks. Kurogane's heart is flatlined. He mocks Kotone, saying a wannabe doctor like her should know a corpse when she sees one. That trash talk. It just activates her absolute try-hard mode. She tilts his head back and goes straight into mouth to mouth. She is completely refusing to take the L. If a physical hit stopped, his heart rebooting it might actually work. Watching this, Sakura realizes she also has to pull her weight. She is totally out of dynamite. What now? She desperately scans around for a new play. She spots the bent steel pipe on the ground. Thinking about how the lich operates, an absolutely crazy idea pops into her head. Zero science backs this up. It is a total gamble. Gripping the metal, she mutters that they have no choice but to send it. Watching the squad rally, Seiju asks why Rakuto is so hyped. Nishi snipes him with an arrow, shouting that they actually respect the guy. Tauta yells that Seiju's jealousy is super cringe. Triggered, the lich roars that he will send them all to join Rakuto. The monster charges right at them. Meanwhile, in the mind space, Kurogane's brother stomps on him, laughing that he got wrecked. The boy just looks up at him. Grinding his heel down harder, Serato tells him to drop the attitude. The kid is basically a ghost already. He brings up their childhood trauma, reminding Kurogane he is useless, his life is a joke, and he will never achieve a single thing. Thrashing him, Serato spits out that nobody even wants him. He calls him an unloved loser who should just touch grass and die. Taking the hits, Rakuto actually agrees, feeling he has absolutely zero value or meaning. He knows he should lock in and fight back, but instead he does nothing. He is completely burnt out from hearing this, shutting down again into a totally hollow, emotionless shell. Suddenly, a voice spams his name and a girl grabs his arm. It is Kotone begging him not to isolate himself because the whole squad is waiting. A vision of their friends flashes by, smiling in casual fits. Still smiling, she begs him to come back, tears flooding her eyes. Back in reality, Rakuto blocks his brother's incoming kick, grabbing his foot. He realizes he might have stayed down before, but those days are totally over. Now he actually has a home base. An annoyed Serato throws a punch, but Rakuto counters. Apologizing, he fires back no matter what. Saruto says he is still breathing. Rakuto clocks Saruto, shattering his face into literal pieces. Saruto freaks out, calling it impossible and questioning how Rakuto did it. Rakuto swears he will keep trying as long as he lives, watching the broken chunks of his brother's face crumble away. Rakuto realizes this insane nightmare is finally going to stop tormenting him. Now he can finally return to his real squad. Kotone looks absolutely shocked as our guy slowly opens his eyes. He shoots up instantly, coughing hard and looking totally stunned to see his friend. Katone admits she thought her efforts were completely useless. Smiling, Rakuto explains that she is the exact reason he found his way back. He explains how he was wandering alone in the dark until he heard her voice. That sound pushed him to keep going. He happily drops his thanks. Acting shy, Katone raises her fists and says he is welcome even though she internally has absolutely no clue what he means. For the first time in forever, Rakuto flashes a genuine smile. Sakura jumps for joy, hyped he is finally awake. She quickly cuts in the tearful greetings have to wait. Sakura tosses him a pipe, telling him to grab it. Rakuto stares at the weapon, completely confused. Sakura proudly explains she buffed his favorite pipe using a silk to heaven mirror reaction. She theorizes these monsters are straight out of a fantasy book. She remembers binging this old game that featured a super tough skeleton boss. That specific boss tanked regular weapons and was only weak to actual silver hits. She admits that is just video game logic though, so she has zero idea if it will actually work in real life. Rakuto shuts down her doubts. He is totally sure it will work. Thanking her, he calls Sakura absolutely goated and dependable as always. He sprints headfirst into the fight. Kotone smiles, wishing him luck and telling him to stay safe. The whole squad watches in pure shock as Rakuto charges. Tuya yells out happily, admitting he was stressed out thinking Rakuto was dead. Meanwhile, an absolutely enraged Saju screams out for our guy. Rushing straight at the enemy, Rakuto shouts back that they can catch up after this fight is over. He yells that they finally have a chance to win, but he needs cover fire right now. Tuya stares at Rakuto's upgraded weapon in total awe. Seeing the opening, Tuya confidently draws his bow back. He snipes the monster right in the head, yelling bet. Rakuto suddenly panics as the creature lunges right at him. A barrage of rocks suddenly pelts the beast, making it screech. Grabbing another stone, Tuya swears he will not let them touch Rakuto. Rakuto smirks and shouts his thanks. Furious, Saju spins toward him, aiming that deadly tail his way. Rakuto instantly vaults into the air, raising his buffed pipe. He asks for forgiveness before jamming the pipe straight through Seiju's chest. Blood fountains out as the boss screams in agony, begging for his life. Kotone watches him entirely paralyzed by fear as Seiju's massive body slowly starts dissolving away. She instantly breaks down, crying, clutching her chest as all that heavy sorrow just pours out. Scanning the battlefield, Tuya shouts out, asking if all the regular mobs just vanished after Saju got wrecked. And yeah, you guessed it, they literally despawned, leaving him mind-blown over how that even makes sense. Takashi answers grimly, guessing it works exactly like the giant golem fight. You eliminate the main boss and all the low-tier subordinates instantly die with it. Tuya stares at his teammate, totally shocked before nodding in perfect understanding. Sprawled on the dirt, Rakuto lets out an exhausted sigh. He admits that sweating this insanely hard for survival makes being alive feel pretty damn good. His crew is jumping for joy, totally hyped about catching that massive W. Moving day is finally here. Tuya does a quick vibe check on the food and water stash, meaning it is officially time to ditch this school. He glances up, catching totally weird vibes. Rakuto casually says that makes total sense. They basically trauma bonded with this entire place. He starts overthinking, wondering if they fumbled the bag or if some alternate route could have actually saved everyone. But honestly, touching grass and staying grounded is better than doom scrolling through regrets. They need to lock in and protect the survivors. Tuya flashes a huge smile, totally backing his bro. Sakura gives Takashi this super soft look while Tuya hypes everyone up, claiming they just have to keep pushing forward. Rakuto throws his hand up and calls the next drop spot Amashima City. The whole squad rolls out toward the survivor base. They are hardcore, hoping this spot is totally safe, a real place to chill, but a seriously goated enemy is waiting for them. Cut to dead gorgons everywhere, with the hunter Fusa Ginkgo standing right in the middle. She casually pins a note to a pipe using her actual sword. The letter drops some heavy lore saying the creature's nest is close. Do not make eye contact, it warns. Just use a mirror like a pro. Then she hits the gas on her motorcycle, tearing down the highway at insane speeds. Fast forward a few days since our squad headed toward Amashima. They ran into all sorts of weird mobs on the road, realizing some of them are actually pretty chill around humans. Rakuto is just chilling in the passenger seat, holding an old-school map. Tuya asks where they are currently spawned. Rakuto taps the paper, explaining that according to the layout, they are parked right at this exact spot. He is totally hyped about their speed run and their solid gas levels. But Rakuto notices his buddy acting super fidgety. Tuya says his brain is just running a million tabs at once, so Rakuto asks him to spill the tea. Tuya checks if his bro remembers the lore about his little sister. The main character just nods, yeah, he remembers. Tuya explains that some messy family drama separated them way back in the day, but thankfully she actually lives super close to Amishima City. He is crossing his fingers that she managed to evacuate without a hitch, but looking at how wrecked the world is right now, that hope is seriously crashing. Koton shoots a worried glance at Tuya staring out the window. Rakuto folds the map and tells his bro to stop stressing. He is totally confident she is surviving out there. A super confused Tuya asks where that confidence comes from. Rakuto flashes a grin and points out the obvious: sharing his genetics means she is an absolute tank just like him. He says if a total goofball like Tuya can outlast the masses, stressing over her right now is just a massive waste of energy. Tuya claps back that it takes a fool to know one, but admits his buddy is spitting straight facts. There is 0 point overthinking this stuff right now. Smiling with total hype, Tuya leans up against the seats. He announces their main quest is hitting Amishima first, and the whole squad laughs and agrees. But suddenly Takashi checks the rear view and absolutely freezes. Takashi screams to pause the podcast. They have a massive enemy incoming super fast. Everyone starts freaking out, asking what is going on. Tuya sticks his head out the window and spots a literal wyvern surfing the sky. The beast drops an insanely loud roar, making the whole squad scream. A totally shook Tuya yells out, "What kind of cracked flying lizard is that?" Sakura screams back that it is a giant wyvern locked onto them. Tuya whips his head around, begging Koton to gun it. She agrees and completely floors the gas pedal. Kotone yanks the steering wheel hard, telling the crew to brace themselves as the car drifts sideways at crazy speeds. The wyvern fixes its flight path midair and keeps hardcore tailing them, flapping those huge wings to gain speed. Tuya pops his head back out, shouting that the monster just hit the turbo too. Sakura, totally wincing from the intense wind, screams that the beast is closing in. The wyvern hovers directly over the roof and roars. The entire car shakes violently while the crew grabs their heads, just screaming in pure panic. But get this, Tuya points ahead, yelling for Kotone to look. He screams about an interchange coming up and orders her to exit immediately. Kotone stays completely chill, turning the wheel and saying she has it covered. The car bombs down the highway, exit insanely fast. The wyvern pauses midair, just roaring. Everyone screams with joy, thinking they actually escaped. The wyvern pops its jaws open and gets right back to chasing the car. The squad instantly realizes this absolute beast is not letting them dip. Tuya starts stressing over how cracked this monster is. He yells out, "What is the play here?" Rakuto shoots back that if they cannot outrun the thing, they literally have to shoot it down. He points out the obvious: if it catches them, it is game over. Meanwhile, a girl named Ginkgo chills on a fence, scoping out the chaos. She scopes out the car through her binoculars and is totally shook to spot Tuya. Ginkgo scoffs, clearly annoyed, and just turns her head away. She hops right onto her motorcycle and shreds down the highway, massive clouds of smoke kicking up. The wyvern roars, closing the gap fast. Tuya completely panics, screaming that the enemy is basically right on their bumper. Glued to his seat, Tuya yells out, "They are totally dead." He wildly fires an arrow at the incoming beast. It smacks the wyvern right in the head but just bounces straight off. Tuya slumps back down, screaming that his attacks do literally 0 damage. The MC stays totally chill, guessing they just have to keep on running then. The car speeds straight toward a massive concrete column. The squad screams at Kotone to watch out, convinced they are about to crash. Kotone confidently rips the steering wheel, swerving the car hard. Everyone else gets tossed sideways, screaming. The wyvern cannot maneuver that fast. It violently smashes its head into the column and roars. Tuya hypes her up, calling it a huge brain play. He figures the massive wyvern literally cannot corner in these tight spaces, though the beast is clearly still built like an absolute tank. Kotone gives a super sheepish little laugh. Sakura claps her hands, completely hyped, calling Kotone a goated racer. But then Tuya looks forward, jaw-dropping in pure horror as he starts screaming again. He begs to know why they just suddenly stop moving. Kotone admits she honestly has no clue. She stomps the gas pedal to the absolute floor. Nothing. The car is totally dead. Rakuto is completely stunned. Are they seriously getting clamped right now after surviving all that? He asks if the engine is cooked. You really thought it was over, shaking its days. The wyvern dive bombs the stalled car. The MC whips around, yelling for everyone to ditch the ride and run. The whole squad instantly scrambles out, scattering in completely different directions to survive. The huge beast swoops directly over Sakura, making her scream in absolute panic. She hits the dirt, looking up at the monster. Trembling hard, she raises one hand, sobbing that this cannot actually be the end. The MC quickly scoops her up and books it. Sakura looks at him, totally stunned, as the wyvern opens its jaws and heavily chases down the squad. Takashi instantly, violently shoves a huge rock into the beast's mouth. The MC spins around, calling out to his teammate. Tuya fires his bow, yelling that they have to act right now, praying his aim is clutch at this range. His inner monologue cuts off completely as the arrow violently pierces the wyvern's eye. The monster throws its head back, roaring in absolute agony. The squad scatters away at top speed. Tuya frantically asks for the next play. The MC, he admits he has zero clue. He says they need a safe spot first, but then suddenly freezes, staring up into the sky. A stressed Tuya asks what is going on. The rest of the crew stops to look up too. Sakura starts shaking, whispering that this is literally impossible. This is where things get truly insane. Multiple wyverns are swarming the sky above them. The MC pieces it together. Did they accidentally wander straight into the enemy territory? Tuya whips his head around, screaming a warning. Everyone turns and sees another massive wyvern standing right behind them. Tuya screams that they are completely boxed in. The MC bitterly realizes the squad is totally surrounded now. The wyverns start closing the net. Rakuto steps in front of Katon, ordering her to run. Out of nowhere, a flare rockets into the sky, leaving a thick smoke trail. The wyverns look up stunned. A massive explosion completely deafens the crew, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. The startled wyverns immediately fly upward, roaring loudly. Shocked, the MC asks if those absolute beasts actually just retreated. Tuya screams out, "What was that crazy flash?" Ginkgo finally pulls up on her motorcycle, muttering she barely made it, and just calmly leans against her bike. The whole squad completely loses it. She is human. They are super hyped to finally find another survivor. Ginkgo casually raises her flare gun. Her explanation: simple wyvern logic. She drops some lore. Just like birds, they love shiny stuff and hoard whatever random trash they find. But she quickly warns that the flare will not distract them forever. They are coming right back, which means it is absolutely time to dip. Katon stares at her like she is an absolute legend. Ginkgo just turns away. "Move your feet faster," she snaps, "unless you guys actually want to be monster food." Tuya asks what their game plan is. He points out she is definitely not the friendly type, but she did just save their lives. The main character steps in right now. They literally have zero options other than just tailing her. Tuya cracks a smile and agrees that sticking with her is totally the play. Ginkgo lets out an annoyed snort, and the whole squad immediately scrambles after her. A bit later down in this creepy underpass, Tuya yells out for Sakura to hustle up and get over to their spot. She sprints toward them, screaming as a massive wyvern swoops down and roars right at her. Sakura shrieks that she is totally going to die and cannot outrun this thing. She dives straight into the tunnel exactly as the wyvern jams its ugly head inside. Gasping for air, Sakura mutters that she literally almost died. Ginkgo calls them a bunch of absolute noobs, complaining that they completely wrecked all of her carefully laid plans. Tuya yells back, "Why is she immediately calling them noobs?" Ginkgo just smirks, saying only total idiots would try driving a car through a wyvern hot zone. Sakura asks what else they were supposed to do, insisting they had zero clue those monsters were even around. Tuya adds they do not even know her. The MC steps right up, admitting he has zero clue why Ginkgo actually bothered putting herself out there to help them. He smiles, genuinely telling her thanks anyway. Ginkgo snorts like she is super annoyed and completely looks away. Tuya watches her and asks where she is heading now. "Just tag along and you will find out," she tells them. The whole squad tenses up, but the main character gives the signal to move. After a bit of walking, the crew checks out this wild new area. Rakuto asks if she is absolutely positive this route is safe, completely stressed about running into monsters. Ginkgo fires back that this is the absolute safest path, mostly because they already wiped out everything in this zone. She then asks if they are trying to reach Amashima, casually mentioning that they are not the only ones heading there. Tuya looks totally shocked. "Wait, there is a whole other squad out here." Ginkgo nods, adding that a much bigger crew just rolled through earlier. And unlike his broke little party, those guys were actually heavily armed. Sakura totally lights up, calling this completely goated news and hyping up that more people actually survived. Koton smiles, agreeing that this is huge. Tuya admits he was low-key terrified they would never find anyone else, but thankfully he was totally wrong about that. He gives the main character a seriously confused look. Meanwhile, Ginkgo just turns her head and quietly checks out the girls. A while later, a completely exhausted Sakura asks if they are close, whining that her legs are basically about to snap. "Not much further now," Ginkgo tells her. The squad squints ahead, asking if that is actually a real light up there. They stare in pure awe at a group chilling inside a nearby room. A stunned Tuya gasps completely out loud. Sakura asks if this is that big squad from earlier, thinking it is honestly big brain to set up an entire camp underground like this. The crew climbs up. Tuya looks away, confused, asking why the vibe in this place suddenly feels so insanely heavy. An angry Ajima calls out to Ginkgo. He snaps, asking if she is literally kidding him right now. This dude grabs her right by the shirt, barking that she was specifically ordered to go hunting and demanding to know why she came back empty-handed. Ginkgo screams out in pain, totally turning her face away from him. Ejima darkly asks if she forgot what happens when people break the rules, or if she honestly prefers getting dragged straight to his bed over actually hunting. Raising a fist, the guy starts screaming, asking why she is suddenly playing mute and if a monster bit her tongue off. A metal pipe suddenly blocks his face. The MC steps up confidently, ordering him to drop her. Ejima whips his head around, demanding to know who this random guy is. But then a hand grips his shoulder. Ejima grits his teeth, turning to see Takashi. Ejima yells, demanding who they are and questioning why they are glaring so fiercely. He flashes a toxic smile, asking if they have some wild animals in the camp who disrespect the rules, promising they are going to pay up. The bandits raise their gear and rush the crew. Hisaki yells out, ordering everyone to stop instantly. Ejima looks at the boss, totally terrified. Hisaki calmly asks if this messy display is seriously how they enforce camp rules around here. Ejima yells out, calling them total freaks, but Hisaki flashes a terrifying smile, making him choke on his words and stammer that it was nothing. He then quickly apologizes to his crew. Now check out the boss's angle. Hisaki tells them to excuse Ejima acting crazy, explaining the guy is just salty. The hunt yielded absolutely zero loot. He then asks who the new guys are. Tuya, sweating bullets, awkwardly scratches the back of his neck. Hisaki taps his chin smoothly, asking if they are also on their way to Amashima. His crew simply nods, confirming the destination. Hisaki smiled, basically saying we could totally help each other out. He pitched us his whole group-up proposal, hyped that with our combined powers, reaching Amashima was actually doable. I just exchanged a quick look with Tuya. Later inside the station office, Hisaki acted super stoked about bringing us to the monastery. He introduced himself as the group leader, hyped to finally meet us. Tuya asked the guy to drop some lore about what was actually happening. Hisaki totally got that we had a million questions. He suggested breaking it all down step by step, starting right at the day the disaster dropped. He explained most of the population got wiped out on day one, honestly no shocker there. Monsters literally crawled out of everyone's phones, straight up swarming the whole entire nation. The military was caught totally off guard since nobody could predict an apocalypse text message. Modern society basically collapsed overnight. He added that rumor has it giant dragons are currently squatting in all the military bases. Sounded like a totally messed up fairy tale. The whole army got absolutely wiped off the map. A terrified Kotone refused to believe it, crying that she thought the military would eventually pull up to save us. Sakura just started screaming, realizing we were totally abandoned in this absolute nightmare. I scratched my chin, thinking this whole setup was getting incredibly sus. Why would overpowered monster nests spawn exactly on military bases? It honestly felt like someone cherry-picked those drop zones on purpose. I remembered we literally fought something that could summon monsters into reality. Pretty sure it was called that broken mythical summoning system. Sure, we knew the phone monsters triggered the apocalypse, but I highly doubted we were getting the full patch notes on this disaster. I wondered if some crazy final boss was pulling the strings. Honestly, who just wakes up and chooses world-ending chaos? Hisaki kept his lore dump going, stating that humanity was straight up flatlining. While there were still some players left on the server, the survivor count was insanely low. He revealed they somehow got back online and found internet connection. That is exactly how they discovered Amashima and its goated survivor camp. They also figured out the apocalypse didn't hit every single city with the same exact damage output. Amashima hadn't been touched at all. This one untouched city was our literal last hope. Tuya yelled out in pure hype. Sakura totally agreed, relieved we could finally go touch grass safely. I confidently pointed out a major flaw, though, was it straight up impossible to enter Amashima from the outside. Hisaki said I was totally right. He guessed we probably ran into those winged wyvern freaks on our journey here. I confirmed it, adding that the silver-haired girl totally hard-carried and saved our lives. Hisaki explained there was a massive wyvern spawn point right above us. Getting to Amashima meant walking straight through their aggro zone. There was zero stealth option. The exact second those wyverns caught you in their line of sight, you were dead meat. He concluded that taking the surface train tracks was basically a guaranteed game over for reaching Amashima. A totally shocked Tuya asked why that was. The boss explained monsters camped the underground too, like some giant worm that already one-shotted a couple of poor souls. I spelled it right out, even this underground safe zone wasn't actually a safe zone. Hisaki explained they realized the worms were terrified of intense light, which is why they built their base camp right here. Way better than staying up top. Sakura grabbed her head, screaming that we were basically just trapped in a different lobby. Tuya fired off another question, but Hisaki just told everyone to chill. He pumped his fist, declaring they had a plan. Sakura screamed in hype, asking if it was true. He explained that's why everyone in their squad grinded their specific roles, working toward one epic end goal. He asked if we were down to join them. Tuya sternly asked for my take on it. I replied we didn't have much of a choice. Tuya agreed right now teaming up was our only real play. Tuya asked the squad for any objections. Hisaki happily thanked us, saying it was time to get on the grind. Ginkgo suddenly cut him off, declaring that we were going to be hunters. Ginkgo told the shock boss they were understaffed and absolutely needed the noobs. Hisaki admitted it was sketchy but totally necessary for their survival run. So just like that, the boys were officially drafted as hunters. A spooked Tuya complained he didn't want the deadly workload. Hisaki stepped in saying the girl definitely shouldn't be running these insane danger-level quests. Ginkgo shoots the leader a dirty look. Hisaki just raises one finger and tells them to get straight to work. Ginkgo totally cuts him off again, shouting they should be diggers since the kitchen staff is already way too packed. The leader points out that digging is a super brutal grind, but he admits keeping them out of the kitchen is smart, so they are officially on digging duty. Sakura and Kotone are absolutely shook by this wild call. A seriously annoyed Sakura asks if he actually expects them to go dig in the dirt. She points out a kitchen gig would have been a total breeze. Now she is wondering how they are supposed to survive this crazy new grind. Ginkgo barks at the boys to follow her. Their very first mission starts right now. Tuya agrees and asks for her name, which she actually drops with a smile. Tuya then asks what this gig actually involves. Ginkgo spells it out. They are hunting, asking what else it would even be. She explains that thanks to their little stunt, she totally lost her target. Now they have to squat up and make up for her blown catch. Koto nervously calls out to Rakuto. The main character promises they will 100% come back alive. Koto nods and tells him to stay safe. Ginkgo casually asks if they are done chatting before ordering them to move out, and the guys agree. The squad gets totally hyped for the hunt. Over in Minamiyaza, right next door to Amashima, a massive wyvern nest just dropped. It totally forced all the locals to hide out underground. But things are pretty cooked down there too. A guy yells out to his buddy asking to hit the brakes a little since they are dragging women and kids along. His buddy calls him an absolute idiot, asking if he actually wants that freaky monster to catch up with them. He says bumping into that absolute beast is an instant game over. Everyone starts screaming as the guy asks if a literal earthquake is hitting them. A giant worm instantly busts through the ceiling, leaving the guy screaming in pure terror. The entire Minamiyaza Amashima line is now the personal basement for this giant worm. Meanwhile, Ajima points out the absolute nightmare happening above and below ground. He explains they basically had to camp out and barricade the station. Then Hisaki cooked up this insane plan to completely revive the whole place. A totally lost Tuya asks what reviving even means here. Ijima flashes a sick grin, explaining they could just run the worm over with a train and ride straight to Amashima. By some massive luck, they actually scored a train nearby. It was completely buried under rocks and desperately needed fixing. Right now, they are just trying to dig the thing out. A stressed Tuya pictures the girls. He figures this has to be exactly what the digging crew is handling seriously, hoping the girls are doing all right. Ginkgo stares down, looking deep in thought. Rakuto glances over and spots her. Ajima gives a creepy heads up while they dig out the train. The rest of the squad is going hunting. Tuya asks if hunters are the brave dudes grabbing supplies by actually going up top. Ajima lets out a terrifying laugh and says, bingo. He calls Tuya a pretty smart guy for catching onto the vibes so fast. He flexes that they are a totally goated elite unit. Everyone is literally depending on their loot to survive, so this job is no joke. A freaking out Tuya yells that hunting sounds absolutely terrifying. Tuya asks if that speech was supposed to hype them up. Rakuto admits it kind of failed, but points out they do not really have another option anyway. He figures teaming up with this crew is their best ticket into Amashima. So yeah, they are just going to play along and do the work. Tuya nods in agreement, guessing they just have to tank it. They are just doing their job, and it is really not their place as total noobs to judge. The main character just scratches his chin. He looks down, saying this setup feels super weird. He wants to know why the rest of the group acts so hyped. Tuya asks if it is not totally obvious, guessing they are just pumped to finally hit the surface again. Rakuto points out that is exactly the red flag. They are heading straight up top, right into a literal wyvern nest. You and I both know anyone could get one-shotted up there. Yet these guys act totally chill and ready to throw hands. He thinks it would make way more sense to just pawn this crazy, deadly side quest onto someone else. Tuya thinks back for a second. He remembers how back at school, guys would literally scream at each other over who had to check the basement. He wonders if this squad's cracked mindset is all thanks to Hisaki being such a naturally goated leader. The main character turns his head, pointing out there is still one more thing bugging him. He asks the real question: if a giant worm is blocking Amashima, why is everyone so obsessed with farming wyverns? Ijima totally cuts him off with a shout, asking what they are yapping about and announcing they finally hit the station. Tuya heavily sighs, guessing they have zero other options. Ijima marches straight ahead while the rest of the crew hangs back on the stairs. Up at the top, Ijima turns around, letting them know they finally made it to the exit. He raises his weapon, barking at everyone to listen up. His plan is basically foolproof. Toss a flare to distract the flying monsters, then just loot absolutely everything they can get their hands on. That is the whole job for these hunters. But there is a catch. They are super low on flares and literally cannot waste a single one. Ejima flashes this seriously creepy grin. He asks how they are supposed to figure out where these freaks are hiding. Rakuto asks what the guy is even hinting at. Right on cue, Ejima announces the newbies are going on scout duty. Since they are supposed to be allies now, he claims they need to pull their weight. Or would they rather just tap out and admit they are totally useless trash? Obviously, this makes his comrades absolutely furious. Tuya demands to know their next move. He admits Rakuto was completely right about this toxic group. They are basically just getting served up as wyvern snacks. The protagonist looks down, covering his mouth as he thinks it through. He steps up to speak, but Ginkgo totally interrupts him. She calls dibs on the scout mission, asking if anyone has a problem with that. Rakuto just stares at her, completely caught off guard. Ijima gets super annoyed, asking why she is constantly babying them and acting way too nice. Ginkgo fires back, this has absolutely nothing to do with kindness. Scouting takes real skill. If these noobs mess it up, they end up risking the entire squad. She flat out refuses to die because of their mistakes. Hearing that, Rakuto confidently steps up, saying he is tagging along with her. Ginkgo calmly asks if he is deaf. She literally just said the newbies would only ruin things. With a highly mocking sigh, she asks if he is just trying to play the noble white knight. The main character clarifies this is not about acting heroic. He genuinely thinks it makes sense for them to scout together. Worst case scenario, one of them could literally just act as monster bait. He asks if she actually cares about pulling this mission off because mathematically his logic is pretty sound. Ginkgo lets out an irritated snort, turning away. She needs to know one thing: will he follow her orders without throwing a fit? Rakuto says yes, as long as it gets the job done safely. Tuya immediately yells out to his buddy. If the main character is going, he is going too. But Rakuto promises him that everything is totally fine. He tells his guys to just chill and wait. Flashing a confident smile, Rakuto swears he refuses to be wyvern food and will absolutely make it back alive. Ginkgo heads upstairs, telling him to shut up and start moving. Fast forward 15 minutes into this super intense scout mission. She crouches down low, trying to figure out if this narrow alley is actually safe. She figures the massive wyverns definitely cannot fit in here. Rakuto gives her this totally confused look, wondering what on earth she is doing down there. Letting out a heavy sigh, Ginkgo explains the mandrake is basically a psycho plant monster. She drops a major warning: if he tries pulling it out, the thing screams. Anyone standing too close literally dies on the spot from the sound alone. That sparks a memory for Rakuto. He remembers seeing this exact crazy plant in a movie once. Ginkgo starts carving into the dirt with her knife, dropping a clear warning not to touch it. Rakuto is completely stunned watching her write this out. Then it clicks. He remembers the older warnings they saw earlier, realizing Ginkgo was the one looking out for them. Now watch this flip. She stands up bluntly, telling him he knows zero about this world. Why exactly did he volunteer for such a hyped mission? She straight up tells him to quit trying to flex and play hero in front of a girl. It is honestly just a really bad look. But Rakuto shakes his head. He has zero interest in playing the hero right now. He just wants to earn their squad's trust. If he has to take risks, he will do it. Their group is totally overpowered, and staying close to them is basically his only ticket to surviving this mess. He also knows that having Takashi around is the only reason the others stopped messing with them. So he smiles, asking if that isn't a pretty logical reason to tag along. Ginkgo just closes her eyes, letting out an amused snort. A sudden massive gust of wind sends leaves flying everywhere. Then she pivots with insane speed. She whips her foot straight at his face, launching a completely unprovoked attack. Rakuto slides back just in time to dodge. Ginkgo screams that his whole idea of rationality is an absolute joke. She goes airborne, spinning beautifully before planting one hand on the ground to launch herself right back up at him. She throws a heavy kick, but he barely gets his iron pipe up to block it. Without missing a beat, she unleashes this wild flurry of combo strikes. He blocks, realizing her speed is top tier, but her actual combat technique is honestly pretty mid. All she really wants is to disarm him and knock that pipe away. Catching on, Rakuto calmly lowers his weapon and just freezes in place. Ginkgo totally yanks him by the jacket and slams him into the dirt like it is nothing. Then she straight up presses a knife right to his neck. She kneels down and calls it just like she said, the dude is mad weak. Then she instantly dips out, snatches a balcony rail, and literally parkours her way over to another building. Sticking the landing on the roof, Ginkgo claims the main character is going to drag her down. And honestly, looking at his stats, she's not wrong. She tells him to scram before the wyverns aggro. Rakuto yells at her to chill out, pointing out that going solo is low-key insane no matter how overpowered she actually is. He knows she fights monsters, but he swears these things are just built different. He admits he has zero clue about her backstory or whatever she's seen, but he warns that her cocky attitude is going to catch up and get her clipped. Ginkgo just smirks and asks if he already forgot who literally just clapped him 10 seconds ago. She makes it crystal clear she does not take advice from noobs. She tells him to touch grass and head back, claiming she's doing this solo before dipping out of sight. The protagonist just stares up quietly, clenching his hand into a tight fist. A little while later, Ginkgo scopes the area out through her binoculars. She spots only 3 wyverns, which honestly is not a crazy amount. It looks like this specific spot is way safer than the rest of the map. Letting out a calm breath, Ginkgo drops the binoculars. She checks her map and admits they actually rolled good luck this time. Since the mob count is so low, she figures if they just use stealth and dodge their aggro range, they can slide through and bag all the loot they need. Ginkgo then takes the plunge. She decides the scouting mission is done and it is time to head back. She really hopes that Dummy survived the trip, though considering his garbage stats, she wonders if letting him solo was a massive fail. Bouncing off a whole set of balconies, Ginkgo sticks a flawless landing. Glancing back at the map, she figures this route leads straight to the station and looks pretty chill overall. But then she spots a full-grown wyvern hiding behind a wall with 3 tiny babies sitting right out front. Ginkgo totally freaks out, questioning if those are seriously baby wyverns because she has absolutely never seen anything like them before. She stares shocked at the cracked eggshells nearby. Then the big enemy aggroes and roars right at her. Ginkgo is completely shook, staring down this beast, and a whole wave of painful backstory flashes right through her head. She remembers the protagonist yelling that no matter how goated she acts, going solo is brain dead and these monsters are way too dangerous. Ginkgo reminds herself she literally expects absolutely nothing from anyone. She quickly dodges away from a pipe and glares back at the beast. Ginkgo lets out a heavy sigh, gripping her bleeding wound. She thinks about how everyone always treated her like a total weirdo, probably thanks to her crazy hair, weird eyes, and totally cracked physical stats. Grabbing the pipe tight, she screams and instantly launches herself down. She realizes she never had a single person to lean on, and honestly, it has always been that way. Ginkgo flashes back to the past, again seeing her old classmates happily chatting away with big smiles on their faces. The students chilling at their desks just absolutely burst into laughter. One girl raises her hand to clarify the drama loudly, asking if Ginkgo is the cause of all this mess and talking about how annoying she is. Another girl totally agrees, claiming that just because Ginkgo has a pretty face, her ego is completely out of control. She adds that on top of Ginkgo's creepy hair and eyes, the whole school heard nasty rumors about her doing sketchy stuff for money. A little while later, a loud scream rings out from the playground. Some dude sitting in the dirt mentions you cannot even tell. Ginkgo is a girl. She orders a bunch of bullies to get lost, and they instantly run off crying out their apologies. Ginkgo then checks on the other kids, just trying to make sure everyone is actually okay. But the students just shake in pure terror and cut her off, literally begging her to stay away. Bawling her eyes out, one girl straight up calls Ginkgo a freak. Ginkgo just glares at the dirt as the kids totally bail on her. She figures this is exactly how it goes. Nobody gives a single crap about her, and she is officially done expecting anything good from humanity. Snapping back to reality, she slowly pushes herself up off the dirty pavement. Ginkgo realizes she has always been a lone wolf and will probably ride solo until she hits a game over. Then another memory hits her hard. Her mom, Fuse Yukina, had told her not to sweat it sweetly, calling her a really good kid. She promised that one day Ginkgo would find real ones who can actually see her true worth, people who would eventually become her absolute ride or die best friends. She snaps out of the flashback just as the massive wyverns dive bomb straight at her. Ginkgo sadly realizes her mom was totally wrong. Talk about a brutal reality check. In the end, she is about to get wiped out completely alone. But then out of nowhere, Rakuto bashes one of the wyverns with a pipe. Ginkgo is absolutely shook to see him pull up. She screams in pure panic, but our guy barks at her to stay totally still. He reaches inside his jacket, thanking his lucky stars he actually remembered to bring the clutch item today. Rakuto whips out a flare and sparks it up. He books it, grabbing the blazing flare, and yells for the wyverns to chase his lead. Those massive lizards lock straight onto him. Ginkgo turns her head in sheer panic, calling him an absolute idiot. Bright lights are literally magnets for wyverns. The monsters immediately dash after him, growling like crazy. Rakuto smirks. Everything is going exactly to plan. He just needs to kite these beasts to one very specific spot. One wyvern snarls in pure rage as it closes in, raising its tail for a deadly strike. He instantly blocks the heavy hit with his pipe. Blood splatters from a fresh gash on his cheek, and Rakuto grunts hard. He dodges away. These things are fast, way quicker than any normal human, but there is no way he is stopping now. He sprints for his life while the wyvern roars, totally locked on. Then he spots something insane and freezes in his tracks. He was only expecting to deal with the baby wyverns today. Massive wyverns are now swarming the sky. Looking up, Rakuto realizes the adult dragons totally heard all that screaming too. The winged beasts glare down, growling before dive-bombing straight toward him. He tenses up, ready to strike back as blood instantly sprays. Meanwhile, Ginkgo breathes heavy, still sprawled out on the dirt. She slowly lifts her head, completely lost. Why on earth would he bait those monsters away from her like that? Ginkgo just stares in shock, realizing this whole setup is completely doomed. Is this guy seriously trying to sacrifice himself? Pitch black shadows blot out the sky, and those are definitely not birds. The wyverns aggressively chase him down. Talk about a plan totally backfiring, he is sprinting away with everything he has. Panting hard, he realizes he only has one play left to make. He pushes himself to hold out just a bit longer. Rakuto freezes, gasping hard as a wyvern lets out a massive roar, completely closing the gap in a split second. The beast attacks, sending him crashing to the floor with blood spraying from his leg. Rakuto trembles from the agony. He cannot even stand up. Is this actually game over for him? Then he spots something that completely stunts him. The wyverns are diving straight at him at insane speeds. Knowing they are about to strike, our guy actually smirks, guess he has literally zero options left. Suddenly, a massive blast of air completely stops the monsters. An ungodly shriek echoes through the entire city. Hearing that sound, Ginkgo totally freezes. She drops to one knee, slapping both hands over her ears. The noise is so brutal, she completely collapses, groaning in absolute pure pain. Dropping her hands, she listens to the fading roar. Did that absolute madman really pull this off? She hesitates, calling it a literal curse. After catching her breath, she realizes the source has to be right around. She looks over at our protagonist, sprawled out and completely surrounded by wyvern bodies. Every single one of them is dead. Rakuto actually yanked out that mandrake mid-scream, basically taking a fatal dose of shock right on the spot. She remembers leaving a strict warning not to touch that plant, but he went and sacrificed his own life just to save hers anyway. But then his eyes pop open and he casually sits right up. Ginkgo lets out a massive scream when she sees him move. Shaking, she screams out, "How was he even alive?" Blood just starts pouring down from his ears. She totally freezes as the wild realization finally hits her. Back then, Rakuto knew his survival odds were literally zero. Before ripping that mandrake out of the dirt, he literally smashed his own ears as hard as possible. The insane air pressure instantly ruptured both of his eardrums. By purposely deafening himself right before the pull, he completely dodged the lethal shockwave of that howl. Ginkgo is absolutely floored, asking if he seriously destroyed his own hearing on purpose. She thinks to herself, you would have to be completely unhinged to try a stunt like that. He grits his teeth in pure agony, blood still dripping everywhere. Ginkgo clenches her fists tight, calling him the biggest idiot ever. Grabbing his hand, she admits it out loud. She has never met a guy this recklessly insane in her entire life. She knows ruptured eardrums can heal up and his hearing will eventually come back. But honestly, who in their right mind willingly mutilates themselves for a win? Rakuto just stares at her, totally confused, completely silent. Ginkgo furiously yells that he is ridiculously lucky he cannot hear a word she is saying. Taking a deep breath, she finally chills out. She realizes she can now tell this absolute madman the real lore, exactly how these monsters invaded their world. He just watches her face, and Ginkgo finally starts dropping the backstory. She hesitates, asking if spilling everything is really a good idea. Then she literally raises a cross, declaring the big secret is finally dropping. Total chaos hits as people start screaming. They are absolutely losing their minds, wondering if these sick monsters are actually baby wyverns. Things are awful. Ejima gets super annoyed and tells them to touch grass and stop the drama, though he admits they are facing total wipeout otherwise. He says their entire hunting strategy desperately needs a reboot. Flashing a grin, Ejima punches Rakuto right on the shoulder, totally hyped about how high IQ our boy's crazy plan actually was. He straight up loves unhinged dudes like Rakuto. According to him, our main character has officially proven he is goated. Ginkgo snaps, telling Ejima to back off, since Rakuto is already pretty banged up. Tuya just shrugs. Honestly, he is 0% shocked that Rakuto pulled off a stunt that reckless, totally on brand for him. He then asks if Rakuto can even hear him speaking. It has been 2 full weeks since that insane hunt and them joining the survivors. Sacrificing his hearing is actually what made Ejima respect him. Earning the group's trust was Rakuto's goal from day one. Since that wild cliffhanger moment, nobody treats him and his squad like trash anymore. But being a hunter is an incredibly sweaty job. They are practically staring death in the face every single day. Ginkgo finally sees our guy as an absolute equal, standing shoulder to shoulder as real comrades. He has another solid buddy to lean on now. Digging is definitely not easy for Sakura and Kotone, but those two are always grinding hard. This new underground lifestyle is incredibly tough, but suffering together just bonds the whole squad, so they keep fighting to survive. But get this, Rakuto cannot shake off a seriously weird, cursed vibe hanging heavy over the whole camp. Days roll by, and our boys still cannot figure out why the entire place feels so ridiculously sketchy. Tuya looks over and asks if his ears are finally back to normal. Rakuto says, yeah, basically. His hearing is definitely not 100% yet, but the audio is slowly coming back online. Tuya says whatever man, he is just stoked. Rakuto can actually understand him now instead of being totally deaf. He then complains, asking how they are supposed to just live underground like literal moles. Rakuto tilts his head, asking who on earth would even know that. Tuya sighs, wondering if that is really the only answer his bro has. Tuya then scopes out Ginkgo, who's standing out there in the crowd. Tuya wonders who she is talking to. Suddenly, a girl screams out asking how Ginkgo could say something so toxic. Ginkgo asks what other option they even have, she just has to do it. The girl yells, "Stop!" A massive smack echoes as she straight up slaps Ginkgo across the face. The girl cries out every time Ginkgo acts this edgy, it makes her absolutely hate everything. It feels like she's being forced to accept a doomed reality she cannot even change. She demands to know how Ginkgo could possibly understand them. Being the big boss huntress means she's completely detached from what normal people feel. Tuya raises his fist and yells asking what they are doing. Ginkgo simply stands up telling everyone to ignore the drama. A seriously stressed Tuya replies that fine, he will just mind his own business then. He thinks to himself she always talks with that blunt attitude. It is basically Rakuto's exact vibe, so no wonder those two actually vibe together. Rakuto points out that something feels totally off, making his buddies turn to look. Rakuto explains that while Ijima and his friends are always completely hyped, the rest of the entire camp is massively depressed. Just look at those girls running away right now. He asks if the overall mood has not felt insanely toxic lately, like some massive drama is brewing. Ginkgo confirms it, dropping the news that bonuses are getting handed out soon. Tuya looks shocked. He heard Ijima's squad mention that basically anyone grinding hard gets special loot drops straight from Hisaki. Ginkgo then cuts in, more importantly, she needs a serious one-on-one chat with Rakuto. Tuya mutters under his breath, asking if she is finally going to confess her undying love to him. Ginkgo aggressively yanks Tuya by the hair. She mentions she has been hardcore analyzing Rakuto's every move for 2 weeks. She admits maybe he is actually trustworthy and tells him to tag along. Meanwhile, down in the mines, Sakura asks if her bestie's leg is throbbing. Sitting in the dirt, Katon shakes her head. Nah, she is totally fine now. Thanks to the fresh bandages Hisaki dropped off, she figures she can finally walk at least a little bit. Sakura cheers, super hyped about the good news. She admits she was completely freaking out when Kotoni initially twisted her ankle. They both talk about how insane their RNG was that Hisaki ended up being such a sweetheart. Smiling warmly, Kotoni totally agrees. Flashback to earlier, Hisaki had actually noticed the girls were completely failing at handling that heavy excavator job. He told them to chill out though. He figured reassigning them to the kitchen was a big brain move anyway. Right now, Sakura just throws her hands up yelling. Cooking in the kitchen is going to be a total breeze time to say peace out to those nasty dirt trenches. Koto nervously looks away, wondering why the whole squad is giving them pity stares. Sakura chimes in saying they should just spill the tea. A bit later, they pull up to a tent entrance and announce they made it. Tuya looks over and asks if they actually finished up already. Rakuto steps up asking what Ginkgo wanted to chat about. Ginkgo lets out a sigh, clarifying she totally wanted a one-on-one conversation. But since our boy Rakuto dragged the whole crew along, she decides to just drop the lore. She asks if they want the actual tea on the disaster, specifically the exact origin story of how everything went down. Tuya screams out in pure shock, asking how she even knew. Ginkgo admits she lacks some details, but absolutely knows the source. She reveals the main villain who kicked this all off, some dude named Serato. Rakuto and Kotoni are completely shook by this wild drop. Ginkgo points out they must be related. She originally thought the matching last names were a coincidence, but it really is a small world. Tuya is flabbergasted, asking if Rakuto has an older brother since he literally had zero clue about it. Rakuto confirms the crazy news, saying they are actually just half-brothers. Tuya loses his mind, saying that white-haired dude did not give off older brother vibes, and asks if Serato used to bully him. Rakuto totally brushes it off, saying that ancient history literally does not matter anymore. Koton touches her chest, getting mad, sad, remembering Serato straight up beating Rakuto down. Rakuto raises a hand, saying it makes zero sense that Serato caused the whole apocalypse. The entire idea sounds completely unhinged. Ginkgo says that checks out. If she had not seen the receipts herself, she would think it was hardcore cap too. But she is absolutely confident about one thing. Serato is the main boss who caused this massive disaster. Plot flashes back to exactly 1 week before everything went sideways. Ginkgo is just chilling on her couch, binging her phone. She gets caught off guard seeing him again. Ginkgo starts overthinking about slimes, golems, and wyverns. She got wrecked by them so many times, but things hit totally different now. Ginkgo memorized every single weakness and feels super hyped to finally secure the win. She remembers slimes get cooked by fire, and the golem with the letter E needs a fat headshot to drop. Wyverns are obsessed with shiny loot and get distracted fast, making it a total joke to speedrun past them. But the Lich is still a massive pain. He hits way harder than the other mobs, but even he folds instantly to silver. Just poke him with a silver spear and it is game over. Ginkgo literally screams out in pure victory. She smiles, realizing the game her mom coded is actually goated and crazy addictive. You got a big brain every single fight, and the levels are totally not for casuals. Ginkgo grabs her jacket and panics. She lost track of time gaming and is insanely late. The mythical summon system app is still running on her phone. Fast forward to a hospital, Ginkgo struts down a hallway. She glances around knowing her mom's room is right around the corner. She shuts up real quick noticing the door cracked open. Inside, Serato asks if that is her final answer. A depressed Yukina confirms it. Smirking, Serato asks if she realizes he basically owns FN. Yukina firmly claps back that she knows exactly who he is, but she is sticking to her guns regardless. She says she quit FN ages ago and now she is just a normal lady running out of time. She tells him to kindly touch grass. Serato just laughs, asking if that is really the genius FN programmer talking. He claims she is one of the rare people he respects and that her mythical summoning system basically built FN from the ground up. And here is where it gets crazy. He reminds her she built it all, telling her not to stress. He drops a wild deal hand over the game, and he will hook her up with the absolute best doctors nationwide. Pretty sick offer, right? Yukina lowers her head and stays dead silent. Serato asks if she is seriously still trying to resist. He says he only played nice out of respect, but that summoning system and the whole company belong to him anyway. He gloats that the old files Yukina left behind before quitting are more than enough to fully launch this thing. He drops a heavy warning their entire world is about to change radically and he is going to be the one kicking it off. He really hopes she will not regret turning him down. Yukina just stares back calmly, saying absolutely nothing. Serato walks right past Ginkgo with a laugh. Ginkgo steps inside and asks who that total idiot was. Her mom is super hyped to see her visiting today. Yukina then brushes her own illness off, saying it is not so important. What actually matters is whether Ginkgo even went to school today. Her daughter instantly starts shaking with pure fear. She looks away and admits she skipped. Her mom immediately asks for the actual reason. Ginkgo crosses her arms annoyed. She complains her class is full of absolute idiots and school is incredibly boring anyway. Yukina agrees her daughter is definitely built different, but she warns Ginkgo that with an attitude like that, she will never make any friends. Ginkgo just snorts in ihrer Tahun. Her mom points to the corners of her own lips and tells Ginkgo to smile more often. She explains a good smile attracts people and literally boosts your own mood. Ginkgo sheepishly begs her mom to stop finding it totally embarrassing. She declares friends are just pure trouble. She lives perfectly fine without ever needing to touch grass anyway. Yukina smiles and questions that logic. If she truly lives so well completely alone, why does Ginkgo always help people in need? Her mom laughs and tells her not to worry, calling her a good girl. She is totally sure that one day her daughter will meet people who truly understand her, and Ginkgo will make some goated friends. The daughter sighs tiredly and asks her mom to drop it. She suggests talking about something hyped instead, like that game her mother made ages ago. Yukina asks if she means the mythical summon system, remarking that it really brings back massive memories. She then asks how far her daughter has progressed in the game. Ginkgo joyfully shouts that just today she finally defeated the Lich boss ruling over the northern region. Her mom cheers with major happiness, calling that achievement absolutely amazing. She admits she designed that boss to be insanely difficult. Ginkgo interrupts, flexing that she beat him anyway. She adds that the whole game is just ridiculously cool. Even though the monsters are classic, their stats change after every single rebirth. Plus, being set in modern times is something she has never seen before. What actually hooks Ginkgo the most is the total lack of magic or basic fantasy elements in this game. To win, a player has to use pure wits and the basic tools at hand. Ginkgo then asks, slightly annoyed, if her mom modeled the main heroine Sylvia after her. Yukina laughs, joking that her top secret is finally busted. Ginkgo shouts that even though the game is unfinished, dropping it right now would make it a massive viral hit. Her mom asks if her daughter truly believes that. Ginkgo raises a finger. Come to think of it, the game is missing a final chapter. She asks how her mom intends to conclude it. Yukina gives a tense smile, apologizes, and replies that the big finale is a strict trade secret. Her daughter eagerly pleads with her mom to spoil the ending. Ginkgo knows she probably does not have much time left with her mom. That is why she spends every single free minute right here. But brace yourselves, the world literally ends today. Ginkgo freezes before a massive monster horde. Terrified, she asks how this is even possible, not believing her own eyes. People are getting slaughtered and burned. Just pure absolute chaos. This is a sick new reality her brain completely rejects. She stares at the carnage in absolute shock, questioning what is even happening. She then notices the cell phones scattered on the ground. Ginkgo screams, realizing the monsters literally crawled straight out of the phones to attack people, and they are the exact same creatures she recognizes. She has definitely seen them all before. Lizardmen, giant black dogs, flying harpies. These are 100% enemies from the mythical summon system, the exact game her own mother created. Ginkgo freezes in panic as she remembers her mom. She takes off sprinting, screaming that she has to find her right now. She knows with Yukina's failing health she could not have gotten very far from that hospital bed. Ginkgo slams on the brakes and turns toward a loud scream. A student sits right next to her dead classmates begging for help. She quickly realizes this is the exact same student who previously yelled at her to stay away. Ginkgo snorts in heavy irritation but sprints toward the girl anyway, her mom's soft words echoing in her head. The monster furiously locks onto her instead, charging at absolute lightning speed and raising its bloody weapon. Ginkgo is stunned. These things genuinely want her dead. This is not some game anymore. This is a brutal reality. The beast swings with massive force. Ginkgo drops to one knee, telling herself to lock in and stop tweaking. She figures if this is the exact same goblin from her mom's game, a mob she's farmed thousands of times, its hitbox and weak spot probably haven't changed at all. So she delivers a brutal kick straight to its junk. The goblin screams, dropping instantly. Ginkgo instantly rushes the next target. She chops the goblin right in the neck, realizing these things hit way harder than your average NPC. But their HP pool is basically zero. She figures as long as she takes them on one by one, she won't even take chip damage. The last goblin just stares at her, absolutely terrified. She quickly puts it in a chokehold, applies the pressure, and the little monster instantly folds like a lawn chair. She turns around, spotting a fallen student, and realizes she completely missed the save. Gritting her teeth in total horror, Ginkgo begs the poor girl for forgiveness. She quickly grabs her knife and bolts out of the immediate area. Everywhere she looks, a literal video game nightmare has spawned right into the real world. But she promises herself to keep pushing forward, her mom needs her. Praying to the universe that Yukina is still breathing, she ruthlessly buries her blade deep into another monster. She lets out this exhausted sigh, complaining that the hospital is completely overrun with these sick freaks too. Sprinting down the hallway at max speed, Ginkgo only has her mom on her mind. She practically tears the room door open and shouts for her. Looking at the completely empty hospital bed, Ginkgo panics, asking out loud if she actually missed her. There are no bodies or any red stains on the floor, making her hope that maybe her mom actually pulled off a clutch escape. And she picks up a weird noise coming from the closet. She swings the doors open and finally spots her mom. Yukina is glued to her laptop, screaming about how she messed up by letting her guard down. She starts blaming herself, then totally freezes when she sees Ginkgo. Super stressed out, Yukina yells that she genuinely never thought he could pull this off and merge the worlds. She admits she heavily slept on Sarada's abilities. She guesses that if things keep going this way, every single device on the planet is about to get bricked. Honestly, she got super lucky having an offline laptop, giving her a real chance to fix this. But Ginkgo totally cuts her off loudly, calling out her mom's name. A visibly terrified Yukina stares up. Meanwhile, Ginkgo is just incredibly hyped and thanking the universe that her mom is actually okay. She insists they need to bounce right now. The whole place is pure chaos, and staying here is literally a death sentence. Yukina just looks down at her screen, sadly admitting that she cannot abandon her setup yet. She explains she has a massive quest to finish here, because this entire crazy apocalypse is totally her fault. Frustrated, Ginkgo grabs her mom by the shoulders, yelling that she has zero clue what Yukina is even yapping about. She begs her to touch grass and leave right now, warning that those mobs out there are very real and absolutely lethal. Yukina grabs her daughter's hand, agreeing that she makes a solid point. They need to bail because she is definitely not ready for a game over. Suddenly, a massive monster tail crashes right through. Ginkgo stares in absolute horror at the beast busting through the wall. I mean, just look at this giant freaking scorpion. She immediately clocks it as one of the game's most broken bosses, completely confused about this spawn location. Then the beast casually steps right onto the laptop. Yukina reaches out in pure panic and screams. Ginkgo throws her arm up loudly, telling her mom to back away. Yukina starts bawling as the scorpion lifts its claws. Gripping her knife, Ginkgo knows she has to carry this fight and protect her mom no matter what. Her mom looks completely defeated, but Ginkgo just orders her to stay back, insisting she can solo this thing. Ginkgo quickly calculates the odds. This thing's insane armor and crazy agility make its attack patterns super unpredictable. She can't even count how many times this exact boss wiped her out online. But she knows its critical weak point is the brain. There is one specific pixel on its head where the armor is totally nerfed. One clean hit right there would totally one-shot this boss. But you already know missing by an inch means getting instantly crushed by pincers or catching a fatal poison debuff. She scrambles for a strategy, wondering if there is any way to safely flank it. Yukina covers her mouth, coughing and crying as she desperately begs for forgiveness. Ginkgo realizes if she were riding solo, she could easily dash away, but her mom definitely lacks the mobility. So running away is off the table. The giant scorpion closes the gap, hissing and rearing up its massive claws. Ginkgo knows she has to lock in right now, landing one flawless headshot while the monster is stuck in its attack animation. She jumps but instantly trips over some random debris. Trembling, she slowly looks down. Crimson splashes everywhere. Her knife definitely connected with the scorpion's head, but Ginkgo realizes her aim was slightly off by just a single inch. A giant claw swings right at her head, totally paralyzing her. The mutated scorpion instantly grabs her up. Ginkgo screams in absolute terror and coughs up blood. This beast raises its massive tail, gearing up for the kill. Our girl really thinks she is entirely cooked here. The scorpion strikes, and Ginkgo watches the nightmare unfold in pure horror. Her mom smiles back at her with blood just pouring down her chin. That stinger goes straight through Yukina instead. Yukina grabs the massive stinger barehanded, grunting in absolute agony. Ginkgo just stares at her, totally paralyzed by the sheer terror. She completely breaks down, crying, screaming that this cannot be real life. Ginkgo goes full rage mode and jams her knife deep into the monster. The scorpion shrieks in pain, but she jumps right back in. Screams echo through the hospital wards. The scorpion is officially packed up and dead. Holding her mom close, Ginkgo desperately begs her to stay awake. She frantically starts brainstorming they absolutely need an antidote right now. But then it hits her, an antidote does not even exist in this game for a fatal strike like that. She figures they have to stop the bleeding first, but Yukina raises a shaking hand and cuts her daughter off entirely. With a soft smile, she touches Ginkgo on the cheek and begs her to just calm down. Ginkgo is just bawling, sobbing that she totally fumbled this and ruined everything. Yukina coughs violently and apologizes, swearing that she is the only one to blame here. Because of her mistakes, so many innocent people got completely wiped out today, and she is deeply sorry. Super confused, Ginkgo yells out that none of this makes any sense. Yukina firmly tells her she needs to take this item. She presses a cross right into her daughter's palm, revealing there is a secret memory card hidden inside it. This tiny thing actually holds the absolute truth behind the whole catastrophe, making it literal endgame loot for humanity. Ginkgo has to go straight to Amashima and find the FN branch. She screams, finally realizing exactly who orchestrated this sick game. It is that absolute menace, Sarutobi. Everything suddenly clicks. She desperately begs her mom to stop talking and save her HP. Yukina just smiles warmly at her girl, leaving Ginkgo totally confused about what is happening. Using the very last of her strength, her mom says, "I love you," calling Ginkgo her most precious treasure. Ginkgo always thought she would be mentally prepared for the day she had to watch her mom finally pass away. Yukina begs for forgiveness, knowing her kid now has to solo this insane burden completely on her own. She drops her head and closes her eyes forever. Holding her mom's cold body in the middle of this absolute bloodbath, Ginkgo starts crying uncontrollably, feeling completely swallowed up by the darkest despair imaginable. Back in the present, Ginkgo finishes the lore drop. This is exactly how her crazy journey kicked off. Kotone looks super sad, saying that surviving trauma like that is way too much for one person to handle. Tuya jumps in, asking if the answers are really hidden in Amashima. Tuta wonders if reaching the city will really give them the cheat codes to save the world. Sakura flat out says this whole backstory sounds way too wild to believe. Ginkgo just keeps it cool, telling them to believe what they want, but she is already locked in on her mission. The protagonist confidently throws his hand up, declaring he trusts Ginkgo completely and wants to tag along to Amashima if she is down. Ginkgo grabs his hand, calling him a sweet kind of crazy. Later on, Ejima casually asks how the leader is doing this month. Hisaki smirks and says they made huge progress, flexing that the squad put in some serious grinding recently. Slapping his book shut, he promises that everyone who actually put in the work will be getting a massive reward. Flashing a super sketchy grin, Hisaki adds that the payout will be straight bonuses. Meanwhile, a few days have passed since that heavy talk with Ginkgo. Anita hypes up the fact they scored bonuses this month, acting like he simply cannot wait to cash in. He shifts focus to the crowd, telling his bro to check out all the absolute NPC sad faces around them. Grinning like a villain, Anita yells out, supposedly anyone who fumbled their bonus is getting shipped straight off to the cultivation zones. His buddy smirks, joking that Anita is definitely being way too savage with them. Rakuto realizes the vibe here is incredibly toxic. Tell me why in every single series the guys running security always end up being the absolute worst kind of trash. Everyone in the camp gets exactly the same rations, so nobody is throwing hands over food shortages or anything like that. The setup should be completely chill, but Rakuto wonders why everyone looks so terrified. He actually considers asking what the deal is. Suddenly, a loud scream interrupts them. Anita is fully gripping up a poor girl named Sana. Trembling, she frantically apologizes, swearing that some random person shoved her and her tray. Before she can even finish speaking, Anita's bro just laughs, asking what her problem is since they are all supposedly friends here. He asks if she seriously wants to start beef over nothing. Our main character just sighs heavily, knowing these toxic clowns are taking things way too far again. I watched an irritated Tuya say they should step in, and Rakuto agreed. Tuya boldly told Anita to drop it. The thug just approached Rakuto instead, warning them to back off and touch grass. Rakuto fired back a freezing death stare. It instantly terrified the guy, but another goon stepped up, yelling at Rakuto to stop acting so untouchable. He admitted our boys had major clout with the camp boss, but reality checked that didn't give them a free pass to disrespect the hierarchy. Surprisingly, Anita told his boys to chill out. He claimed it was way better to respect the established order. He actually walked up to Sana and apologized. Just a harmless prank, he claimed. I saw Santa clench her fists in total fear. Anita just brushed past her, telling his crew to bounce because he wanted some food. His squad got insanely triggered, screaming that these arrogant jerks needed a reality check and were acting way too cocky. But Anita just flashed this super creepy grin. He told them to drop it, promising these rookies would learn the boss's rules soon enough. Tuya stood there, totally confused, asking what they even meant. Meanwhile, I watched our main guy extend his hand to Santa. He gently asked if she could manage to stand up. Santa was just shivering with tears in her eyes. Out of nowhere, her dad smacked Rakuto's hand, screaming at the freak to back off. Completely stunned, Tuya asked what his problem was. Santa practically begged her dad to stop crying that these guys actually saved her and were real heroes. Her dad decisively raised his fist and ordered her back. He claimed he knew exactly how things worked, saying they were just like everyone else. Rakuto just stared, asking if this guy was really her dad. He flat out asked why the man did absolutely nothing to save his own kid if he saw the whole thing. He pressed hard. Wasn't it a parent's basic job to actually protect their own flesh and blood? The furious father told our boy to shut his mouth. He threw his arms up, screaming that Rakuto knew absolutely nothing. Santa threw her arms tightly around her dad, begging him to just stop. She cried that they were only alive right now because of these guys. She kept pointing out that she was totally fine, begging him to open his eyes and drop it. Breaking down, the dad knelt and hugged her desperately, asking for forgiveness. I watched Tuya pat Rakuto's shoulder quietly, suggesting they should just bounce. Right around then, I noticed some other dude grabbing his head in pure panic. He slumped down completely devastated, screaming that this had to be a nightmare. He was terrified they were finally sending him off to be raised like livestock. Koton walked by holding a food tray, flashing a smile and asking if he felt sick. Seeing her super cheerful vibe, the guy shyly threw up his hands and claimed everything was peachy. Koton said she was super glad and offered him some grub, but the dude freaked out, begging her to stay back and asking if she was kitchen staff now. A surprised Kotoni actually confirmed it, saying she had just started that exact morning. The guy gave a bitter smile, realizing even someone like her got sent there. Koton awkwardly explained she couldn't handle her old job anymore, so she'd try her best in the kitchen. Over in the corner, Sakura happily waved her hand, yelling to hurry up because Rakuto was waiting. Koton yelled back that she was already heading over. Holding his plate, the guy mumbled about her beauty. Then he laughed like a total psycho, claiming she'd eventually face the exact same twisted fate. Honestly, I felt it too when Rakuto finally pointed out that this whole place was mad sus. He mentioned they'd been crashing here for 2 weeks, but he couldn't shake this insanely creepy vibe. Tuya just calmly nodded, totally agreeing with his bro. Crossing his arms, Tuya pointed out how the camp's atmosphere was getting more toxic and unsettling by the day. He was so creeped out he just wanted to ditch this place. Tuya guessed the weirdness started with those random bonuses, wondering what the catch really was. Rakuto turned his attention to Ginkgo, noting she had way more seniority here, and asked her to spill the tea. Ginkgo just nervously ducked her head. Right then, Sakura showed up smiling with a tray, loudly guessing the guys were starving. Koton chimed in, praising their crazy hard work today. Tuya looked hyped and thanked them, grinning as he admitted he was practically starving to death. Looking absolutely terrified, Ginkgo asked why the girls were suddenly serving meals. Koton casually explained they were kitchen staff now. She mentioned blowing out her leg recently while grinding away as a digger in the mines. Sakura chimed in, saying Boss Hisaki kindly reassigned them. She actually apologized, feeling bad that everyone else was busting their humps while they couldn't even handle basic digging duties anymore. Tuya threw up a hand, arguing that sending them to the mines was a garbage idea anyway. Meanwhile, I saw Ginkgo fuming, secretly cursing out Hisaki as a total scumbag. Looking crazy stressed, she bolted for the exit.